41(2)(b) provides as follows. And I quote, "A bill that has been published, read a first time, or in respect of which the second reading has not been concluded, at the end of 2 consecutive sessions of the same Parliament shall lapse at the end of the second session and may be republished in the same or different form in accordance with the Standing Orders 114, Introduction of Bills." However, as honorable members will recall, on Wednesday, 4th December 2024, the House approved a procedural motion exempting 19 bills from lapsing during the period of the 3rd and 4th sessions. These are: 1. Political Parties Amendment Bill 2022, 2. Fisheries Management and Development Bill 2023, 3. The Metrology Bill 2023, 4. The Universities Amendment Bill 2023, 5. The Preservation of Public Security Amendment Bill 2023, 6. Appellate Jurisdiction Amendment Bill 2023, 7. The Penal Code Amendment Bill 2023, 8. The Legal Aid Amendment Bill 2023, 9. The Prisons Amendment Bill 2023, 10. The Mining Amendment Bill 2023, 11. The Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill 2023, 12. Kenya Roads Amendment Bill 2023, 13. The National Transport and Safety Authority Amendment Bill 2023, 14. The Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Amendment Number 2 Bill 2023, 15. The Gold Processing Bill 2023, 16. The Basic Education Amendment Bill 2023, 17. The Employment Amendment Bill 2023, 18. The Universities Amendment Number 3 Bill 2023, and 19. The Institute of Social Work Professionals Bill 2023. Bills that were not covered under this exemption have since lapsed. However, sponsors of the affected bills who may be desirous of proceeding with them may, in accordance with the standing orders, seek guidance from the clerk. And I repeat, some of those bills, up to 10 bills, are seeking to amend the same acts of Parliament, some the same sections of the same acts. So I encourage those who have those bills to find a way of harmonizing them so that we have a composite bill that can be brought afresh. Honorable members, with regard to questions, those that had been transmitted to the respective ministries by the end of the 3rd session but not yet received a response have also lapsed. However, if any member still wishes to obtain a response, the member is required to visit the table office to formally indicate so. This must be done by close of business on Thursday, 20th February 2025, to enable the leader of the majority party to prioritize such questions when scheduling the appearance of cabinet secretaries before the House. For avoidance of doubt, any questions that had not been transmitted to the ministries, constitutional commissions, and independent offices have also lapsed. Members are, however, still at liberty to file such questions afresh if they wish to do so. As we settle to this new session, honorable members, to ensure effective communication and facilitation of members are also requested to update their biodata with the Office of the Clerk in order for it to be accurately captured in the records and on the website of Parliament. I therefore urge all members to visit the Office of the Clerk at the earliest convenience in order to fast-track this process. Additionally, honorable members, the following 10 bills which the House passed before proceeding the just concluded recess were ascended to and are now part of our laws of Kenya. The National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2022, the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2023, the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2024, the Kenya Roads Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 18 of 2024, the Kenya Revenue Authority Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 35 of 2024, the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2024, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2024, the Tax Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 47 of 2024, and the Business Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2024. I allowed the House for the dedication demonstrated in the passage of the said laws and urge that as we commence the fourth session, we undertake our legislative duty with greater enthusiasm in order to achieve more. Finally, honorable members, as we embark on the fourth session, I'm confident that the House will continue to build on its commendable performance in the consideration of key legislative business and other crucial committee business. Let us remain committed to serving the people of Kenya with diligence, integrity, and efficiency. With that, honorable members, I once again welcome you back and look forward to a productive fourth session. I thank you. Honorable members, at the door, take the nearest seats. I have another communication to make. None. Order. Take the nearest seats, members. Members in the walkway, take the nearest seats. Order, honorable members. Take the nearest seats. Honorable Nabuin, take the nearest seat. Order. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, the next communication. Order, honorable members. Order. Order. Honorable Babuino, take your seat. Order. Honorable members, the next communication is on the recognition of members of the National Assembly conferred state honors and retirement of a long-serving officer of the House. Honorable members, as you are all aware, the offices that we hold as leaders in this republic, including the office of Member of Parliament, are held in trust on behalf of the people of Kenya. Indeed, part of the recital in our own prayer states that we elected leaders in this House always commit to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote the honor and the glory of God and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and those whose interests have been committed to our charge. Honorable members, in recognition of members' commitment to live up to the philosophy of our prayer when serving the nation, the Parliamentary Honors Advisory Committee has been regularly making recommendations to the President regarding members of this House who ought to be conferred honors in accordance with Article 132(4)(c) of the Constitution. The Parliamentary Honors Advisory Committee, which I co-chair with the Speaker of the Senate, is a statutory body. It is composed of members drawn from both houses of Parliament and the Parliamentary Service Commission. The committee is responsible for identifying and recommending nominees from Parliament as one of the arms of the national government to be awarded national honors. The committee is also responsible for some statutory bodies, including the Office of the Auditor General and the Office of the Control of Budget. To this end, honorable members, the committee in 2024 recommended some members of parliament and staff for the award of national honors. This was done through a rigorous consideration, including seeking the views or objections of the public on the proposed nominees and taking them into consideration determining the final list of nominees. In this regard, I wish to inform the House that several members of this House were conferred state honors by His Excellency the President during the 61st Jamhuri Day celebrations held on 12 December 2024 in recognition of their distinguished service to the nation in various capacities. Top on the list of honors is the Honorable Junaid Sheikh Nur Mohammed, CBS, MB Leader of the Majority Party, who was conferred the Elder of the Golden Heart, EGH. Alongside him are the following members who were awarded the Chief of the Order of the Burning Spear, CBS. The Honorable Faith Gitau, CBS MP. The Honorable Patrick Macau, EBS, CBS MP. The Honorable Muhammad Ali, HSC, CBS MP. The Honorable Raphael Wanjala, CBS MP. The Honorable Kangoko Bowen, CBS MP. The Honorable Engineer Vincent Musyoka, CBS MP. The Honorable Kimani Kuria, CBS MP. The Honorable Haika Miziki, CBS MP. The Honorable Abdi Shuria, CBS MP. The Honorable Yusuf Haji, CBS MP. The Honorable Gabriel Tongoyo, CBS MP. The Honorable George Kariuki, CBS MP. The Honorable Dr. John Mutunga, CBS MP. The Honorable John Kiari, CBS MP. The Honorable Nelson Koech, CBS MP. The Honorable Peter Lochakapong, CBS MP. The Honorable Stephen Karani, CBS MP. The Honorable Eric Muchangi, CBS MP. The Honorable Nelson Wamboka, CBS MP. The Honorable Fatuma Zainab, CBS MP. The Honorable Rose Museo, CBS MP. The Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, CBS MP. The Honorable Janet SCTNEWS, CBS MP. The Honorable Tom Joseph Kajwang, CBS MP. And the Honorable Johnson Naika, CBS MP. Honorable members, you'll note that the members conferred state commendations are members of the Parliamentary Service Commission, chairpersons of committees, and other ranking members who served for more than 3 terms. In making recommendations, the committee considered other factors including longevity of service in Parliament and performance during the just concluded 14th ESC in the Parliamentary Games, whose agenda is about regional integration. I do note that many members will desire to be part of this list, but slots are ordinarily very limited. I urge the House to take a moment to congratulate them for earning this well-deserved state recognition. Congratulations to all those members. Honorable members, among those who also conferred with state honors were 9 members of staff. Please allow me on your behalf to recognize one of them, Ms. Anne Wambui Njoroge, the immediate former Director of Hansard and Audio Services, who is seated in the Hansard box. You may stand up, Anne, just below the Speaker's gallery. I've singled out Ms. Njoroge because she's retiring from the parliamentary service as with effect from last week, Friday, 7th February 2025. After 33 years of distinguished service to Parliament. Honorable members, Ms. Njoroge joined Parliament in 1991 during the 6th Parliament at the level of Hansard reporter in the National Assembly after 1-year stint as a teacher at Kwale High School, having graduated from Kenyatta University. She has therefore served 8 parliaments, being the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and the current 13th Parliament. As a career Hansard reporter, she committed her life to the production of precise records of plenary proceedings and committee sessions in the form of Hansard reports. She steadily rose through the ranks of Hansard reporter, one assistant Hansard editor, senior assistant Hansard editor, and deputy Hansard editor, and ultimately ascending to the apex position of director Hansard and audio services. And you may take your seat. Her notable milestones include the restructuring of Hansard and audio services for better service delivery, the formulation of policies that have improved the processes of production of the Hansard reports, and the ongoing project of digitizing production of the Hansard. Indeed, in recognition of the stellar services rendered by Ms. Anne Njoroge to Parliament and the nation, the Parliamentary Honors Advisory Committee recommended her to His Excellency the President, who awarded her the Order of the Grand Warrior, OGW, in December 2023. Honourable members, her presence today in the Hansard box is of great importance, and we thank her for her 33 years of service and diligence in overseeing the production of the Hansard report of our proceedings as the Director, Hansard and Audio Services. On behalf of the National Assembly, the Parliamentary Service Commission, and indeed on my own behalf, I wish to thank Ms. Anne Njoroge, OGW, for the more than 3 decades of her dedication to the service of the Parliament of Kenya and indeed to the Republic of Kenya. We congratulate and wish you well in your next phase of life in retirement. Honorable members, before you go to what looks like some arguments you are going to have this afternoon, allow Anne to have a dignified send-off by allowing me to invite one of your colleagues who worked with Anne in the Hansard section before he branched off to go and become the Speaker of Baringo County Assembly, and later coming back as a member for Baringo North. Is it Tiati now? The Honorable Kamket. Give Honorable Kamket the mic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, indeed, it is a
Order, honorable members, this is a great day for Anne Njoroge. Give her the silence so that she can be honored by one of your colleagues who was her colleague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, it is a great honor for me to get the opportunity to pay tribute to my former boss, Ms. Anne Njoroge. Mr. Speaker, I joined Parliament myself as a Hansard reporter in February 1997. And immediately, Mr. Speaker, I was thrown into the deep end of Hansard reporting. But I was lucky, Mr. Speaker, to have had a very dedicated, humble, and determined public officer who trained me, Ms. Anne Njoroge, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Robert Mbui. Order, Robert. If Anne Njoroge was your sister, your mother, or your cousin, or your wife, you would love to give her this day. Go on, Kamket.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Ms. Anne Njoroge is a very dedicated officer, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, that box, Mr. Speaker, the Hansard box, is a box that is very familiar to me. I have sat in that box, Mr. Speaker, for a very long time, under the guidance of that very humble and hardworking public servant. And I'm very proud, Mr. Speaker, to be her product, to be the product of her guidance. And Mr. Speaker, that Hansard box, Mr. Speaker, has also produced not only me, but the Honorable Member for Matungu, the Honorable Peter Oscar Nabulindo, who was equally a Hansard reporter with me under the guidance and leadership of Ms. Anne Wamboi Njoroge. Mr. Speaker, when I joined Parliament in 1997, this House, there was no Parliamentary Service Commission at that time. I remember, Mr. Speaker, we used to go and line up at Mr. Kiliku, the accountant, for salary, Mr. Speaker. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, not even the members of Parliament had bank accounts. We used to line up at the finance office to receive salary. At that time, Mr. Speaker, we did not like the members of Parliament that much because we would line up for more than 2 hours, and then about 10 or 15 members of Parliament come and overtake you as we all lined up for salary. But perhaps, Mr. Speaker, what's the most interesting about Hansard, because we're talking about Ms. Wamboi today, is that the Hansard, Mr. Speaker, is supposed to be an accurate report of the spoken word without interfering with the facts and the line of thought of the honorable member. It's a very specialized kind of reporting, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that in the office that I worked with, in the Department of Hansard led by Ms. Wamboi and other officers, we were able, and I believe even as at now, we were able, Mr. Speaker, to capture the lines of thoughts of honorable members, organize their thoughts without losing the facts and realities of what they want to present. And the next day, Mr. Speaker, whenever a member wanted to have or wanted to go through what they contributed to in the House, they would be mesmerized at how well they spoke, at how well thought out their ideas were, only because, Mr. Speaker, the Hansard officers put in many hours of work to make everything right. So, Mr. Speaker, as my colleague, my former boss, Ms. Njoroge, retires, I want to wish her the very best in her life. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that box there, the Hansard box, is a great box. And all officers of Parliament who have worked in other departments, those who have made it to members of Parliament, I want to say that everybody has a chance in life to be a leader of this country. And Ms. Anne Wamboi Njoroge is a great person. She's a great woman, and I'll forever be grateful to her as a person whom she mentored into the great member of Parliament I believe I am today, Mr. Speaker. I thank you, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you. The second and last tribute to Ms. Njoroge is from Owen Bayer, who represents the constituency where she came from before she came here.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, I rise today to salute a distinguished public officer, Mrs. Anne Wamboi Njoroge, who has recently retired from her position as the Director of Hansard and Audio Services in the National Assembly. Mrs. Njoroge's journey in the public service began on October 7th, 1991, when she was first appointed as a Hansard Reporter 2 in the Hansard Department. Her dedication and commitment saw her rise through the ranks until she was promoted to the position of Director, Hansard and Audio Services in the National Assembly, the position she recently retired from. Mrs. Njoroge has been an integral part of the Hansard Department and of the National Assembly, contributing to the accurate and comprehensive recording of parliamentary proceedings. Her meticulous attention to detail and commitment to excellence have ensured that the Hansard reports remain a reliable and valuable resource for members of Parliament, researchers, and the public. Honorable Speaker, before joining public service, Mrs. Njoroge served as a teacher at Kwale Boys High School, where she taught many students, including Mike Mbuvi Sonko, former Makadara MP and second Nairobi County Governor and first Senator of Nairobi County in Form 2 in 1990. Honorable Speaker, Mrs. Njoroge's tenure has seen her work alongside many prominent figures in Kenyan politics, including the late President, His Excellency President Mwai Kibaki, the late Honorable Michael Wamalwa, the late Honorable Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, the late George Anyona, the late Honorable Martin Shikuku, the late Honorable Henry Nthenge, the late Honorable Kenneth Njindo Matiba, the late Honorable Jeremiah Nyaga and his sons, the Honorable Norman Nyaga and the late Joe Nyaga, the late Honorable David Mwenje, the late Honorable William Olen Timama, and the late Honorable Bonaya Godana, to mention but a few. I'm also told that she taught the Honorable Mashetani, the former MP for Lungalunga. She recalls memorable events, Mrs. Njoroge, such as one, members' induction in 2013, where she presented on parliamentary privileges and gave the example of Honorable George Nyanja, the former MP for Limuru constituency, who jumped the fence along Uhuru Highway in the 1990s to avoid being arrested. She also recalls the firm chairmanship of the late Honorable Anyona as the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee, and the late Jaramogi and the late Kijana Wamalwa as their chairpersons of the Public Investments Committee. The Honorable Anyona was also a firm deputy speaker. Honorable Speaker, Mrs. Anne Wambui Njoroge's contribution to the Hansard Department at the National Assembly has left a lasting legacy. Her unwavering dedication and professionalism have set a high standard for all who follow in her footsteps. As we recognize her invaluable service, let us extend our heartfelt gratitude and best wishes for her future endeavors. Honorable Speaker, please join me in recognizing and celebrating on a remarkable career of Mrs. Anne Wambui Njoroge. Honorable Speaker, I would like to salute and I give you the greetings of the Leader of the Majority, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, can we have a foot thumping for Ms. Njoroge? Thank you. And we wish you well in your remaining productive years in public life. And may God give you guidance and protect you. Next. Yes. Yes, Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to wish all the members Happy New Year. And Mr. Speaker, also to congratulate all the members that have been awarded, and also to congratulate Anne for the amazing work that she has done for the Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, also just my concern as a woman leader, that I hope that when you have a woman rising to that level, that there will be another woman who will be able to either go that high or to a level almost as high, because women are not usually represented at that high level. Mr. Speaker, having said that, and even in acknowledging the members, I know that your committee forgot me, but you will correct that in their words. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, I wish to stand. Yes, I do have a CBS, but I also want to rise. I'm still doing good work. Mr. Speaker, if I don't praise myself, who will praise me? Mr. Speaker, I wish to stand under standing order number 19A and 20. Mr. Speaker, of our standing orders, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to indicate further to a court decision, the High Court decision.
Order, Millie, take your seat. I know you did see me in my chamber and indicated you raise a matter that you're trying to raise. I'll give you an opportunity, but let's finish with some preliminaries first. Clerk, order. Order, Angela.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, February 11th, 2024. 1, the Auditor General's report on...
Order. 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 Take your seats. Order. Take your seats. Order. Order, members. Order. I will order that matter to be stayed. Let me hear Millie Odhiambo's point of order. Order. Millie Odhiambo, I'll hear your point of order. Order. I will hear Millie Odhiambo's point of order. 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 Honorable members, take your seats. Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, honorable members.
Order. Member for Kilifi. Honorable Millie Odhiambo, take the floor. Millie Odhiambo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Let's order. Millie Odhiambo, take the floor. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I rise understanding order 19A and 20. Mr. Speaker.
Hold on, Millie. Honorable members, can we hear Millie Odhiambo? Order, Angela. Order. 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 Honorable Gertrude Mbeyu and those who are conducting themselves like you. Honorable Mawade, the excitement does not preclude the application of standing orders. And if I see you getting rowdy again, I'll request you to leave the chamber. Millie Odhiambo. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand under Standing Order 19A and Standing Order 20. Mr. Speaker, and in furtherance of a recent decision by the High Court HTC number E202 of 2023, Kenneth Njagi Njiru and 11 others versus the National Assembly of Kenya and others. Mr. Speaker, I will not go to the demerits and merits of that matter. I will go to what the court concluded, which is that the Azimio side is the majority. And based on that, Mr. Speaker, again, because I've said I'm not going to the merits and demerits of that decision, Mr. Speaker, I want to just indicate that I have therefore, as the majority party whip of Azimio, today handed over to your office a copy of that decision of the High Court with a letter that we are giving you our, according to the standing orders, our majority leader as Honorable Junet Mohammed and Honorable Robert Mbui. Mr. Speaker, following the standing orders, Honorable Junet will thereafter then communicate me officially as the minority whip, going by what the standing orders, but a majority whip. Majority. Mr. Speaker, I also stand under standing order 90 and had actually consulted you about this. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the judgment of that court, the court actually infer that because of the position you hold as Speaker and also as chairman of your party, Mr. Speaker, it is not, as party leader of your party, Mr. Speaker, it is not possible for you to be fair. You are going to be conflicted when you are conducting the matters of this House. Mr. Speaker, I therefore humbly request you to step down and mandate Honorable Gladys Boschole to take over in discharging the functions as the Speaker because of your conflict of interest. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, in concluding, Mr. Speaker, because I said I'm not going to go to the merits and demerits of the matter, in concluding, I want to urge that as a parliament, we need to obey court rulings and decisions, even when we don't agree with them. And Mr. Speaker, I also just want to indicate that you can see my two colleagues are standing next to me. My advice to them in future is to follow a philosophy from my community which says, Telo Ikao, Telo Kumingato. So next time they should do what Honorable Ruku did. Jump if you have to, but take your position the way Honorable Millie has done.
Is that part of your point of order?
No. Mr. Speaker, I said as an arbiter. And Mr. Speaker, I would also just want to say, very finally, also as an arbiter, Mr. Speaker, people are also talking about broad-based. Again, I'm very careful. I'm saying this as an arbiter. It's not my substantive argument. Mr. Speaker, people talk of broad-based. Yeah, and even when you look at the decisions of the arguments of the court, they keep making reference to the de jure and the de facto. And many things may have changed over time. And Mr. Speaker, I'd want to say that actually, if you look at this side of the House today, we are seeing broad, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we want to see good faith, we want to see if it is also based. It is broad. But based, whether it is based will depend on the decision going forward. Otherwise, we will be told by the court it is hot hair, this broad base is hot hair, wild goose chase, and all those other things, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move.
Order, members. Order, members. Maintain your silence. Millie Odhiambo has raised 2 points. One I'll dispose of very quickly, and the other I'll allow the House some latitude. As to whether the Speaker, yours truly, should preside over these proceedings or not, I'll dispose it of as follows. One, there's no motion before the House about the Speaker. Number two, I am a senior lawyer in this country, and I'm your senior Millie Odhiambo. I have read that judgment with a tooth comb, and there's nowhere it requires the Speaker to do what you are saying. More particularly, the final findings of that judgment, which as a distinguished learned friend, we had an opportunity to read through together today. That judgment does not cast aspersions on the Speaker presiding on such proceedings. Number three, in similar situations, in the 10th Parliament, a motion was brought to this House by the then member for Kibwezi, the Honorable Patrick Musimba, to discuss the conduct and the possible vacation of office by Speaker Muturi as he then was. Speaker Muturi presided over the debate and the vote was taken, and the motion went the way it did. Number 4, in the 7th Parliament, when I was a fresher in this house, the Honorable James Orengo, or one of the then Ford Kenya members, brought a motion to discuss the conduct and character of the then Speaker, Francis Xavier Kausai Ole Kaparo. Kausai Ole Kaparo presided over the proceedings. The motion was debated and put to a vote, and it went the way it did. I'm sure you know that neither Muturi nor Kaparo left office on the basis of any motion. Number 4. Number 5, you as truly as your Speaker does not debate, does not vote. I hold a position of honor to preside over your proceedings. Anybody who wants to say anything about this judgment, I'll give you an opportunity. And it's finally going to be yours truly to give you a ruling on the matter. It must also be made very clear as we listen to each other that neither the court nor any authority outside this chamber, and senior lawyers like Otendo Molo should know this, neither the court nor any other authority outside this chamber can make declarations that affect the conduct of business here except yourselves by voting and by the Speaker giving you rulings. Number 7, we sit here as a quasi-judicial body. And as a quasi-judicial body, I will listen to you, and I assure you, I'll give you a fair finding. It is like going to court and telling a judge that because the lawyer appearing before him was his classmate, he will not be fair. That has no foundation in law or in fact. So I'll open up and hear those who want to have similar points of order, as Millie Odhiambo has raised, on the judgment. And I want also to caution you members that your standing orders do not allow you to discuss the person or character of any judge unless you have brought a special motion to discuss that judge. You can analyze the judgment, you can agree with it, you can disagree with it, you can qualify it, you can do whatever you want, but don't disparage or discuss the character of any judge without a special motion as is provided for in our standing orders. Honorable Millie Odhiambo, that is my direction. Thank you. Yes, Wanjala, what's your point of order? Give him the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the first clarification, which we have humbly understood and agreed with. But, Mr. Speaker, you have left out the second issue about the majority leader in the House.
Order, Angela. That is exactly the issue that Millie raised. That she has written to the Speaker. Yes, I've received the letter. I'll analyze it. I have given you an opportunity to speak to her point of order or any other point of order. Yes. Yes, Junaid Mohammed.
Mr. Speaker, first I want to say today that I am privileged to speak from the seat of the majority leader. Because, Mr. Speaker, even when I sat on the seat, it is very warm, Mr. Speaker, unlike mine, which was very cold, Mr. Speaker. I didn't know the seats of Parliament have different warmth, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I don't foresee myself leaving this seat anytime soon. I don't see myself leaving this one anytime. But having said, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware and as you have alluded to, Mr. Speaker, there is a court ruling. A ruling of court consisting of 3-judge bench, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a court ruling has only got 2 decisions, Mr. Speaker. There is no third way about it. One is to obey it, and secondly, if you have any avenue of appeal, you exercise that right of appeal, Mr. Speaker. There is no third way about it, Mr. Speaker. And the court ruling, what we went as Azimio after the election, after your decision here, Mr. Speaker, what took us to court was for the court to interpret for us the constitutionality of your decision on who's the majority party and who's the minority party in this House, Mr. Speaker. And the issue of the Speaker came in as obiter, Mr. Speaker. But what took us to court, we wanted to know, because when we arrived here after the election, we arrived here knowing very well that we are the majority party, Mr. Speaker, and we are the numbers. But midway, we ended up losing numbers through your ruling, Mr. Speaker. And that is what took us to court, to ascertain whether we are the majority and whether we are the minority. And luckily, the court has made its ruling, albeit late, Mr. Speaker. We expected this ruling much earlier than this time, Mr. Speaker. But it is better late than never. The decision arrived, and the decision has said that the Azimio party is the majority party in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And I so happen to be the minority leader as of now, Mr. Speaker. So today afternoon, I just switched seats and I took over the role of majority leader, Mr. Speaker. And I am capable of doing that work, Mr. Speaker. I have the capacity, I have the qualifications, I have the capabilities, I have the numbers in the House, Mr. Speaker, to lead, Mr. Speaker. I have everything what it takes, Mr. Speaker, to be the majority leader of this House, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the issue that we need to exercise, to analyze, Mr. Speaker, is that, Mr. Speaker, I want to say this. Mr. Speaker, court rulings are very important, Mr. Speaker. You remember after the election, we disputed the result of the election. We ended up filing a court case in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court pronounced itself that we did not win the election, and the other party won the election, and we abided by it, and we respected the court ruling, Mr. Speaker. This court ruling also must be respected, Mr. Speaker. Because it's not like any other court ruling, Mr. Speaker. It's a ruling of the Court of the Republic of Kenya, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this ruling cannot be taken jokingly, Mr. Speaker. When I went through it last evening, Mr. Speaker, these judges are raising very serious fundamental issues. They are raising issues relating to violation of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. And you remember we impeached someone here because he violated the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if this matter is not addressed, we are going to have a constitutional crisis in this country, Mr. Speaker. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, jurisdictions all over the world and democracies all over the world that we borrowed from, even this presidential system that we are running today, that is running in this country, Mr. Speaker. In the United States, there are times when the executive is from the Republican Party and the House is ruled by the Democratic Party, and life goes on. It doesn't matter that we are going to oppose everything that the government wants to do. If government brings here bills and policies that are of benefit to the country, we will support it, Mr. Speaker. And as you know now, many things have gone under the bridge. There is this animal called also broad-based, Mr. Speaker. We want to broaden, deepen, and tighten this relationship, Mr. Speaker. If I may borrow your words, we want to broaden it, deepen it, and tighten it, Mr. Speaker, so that we can have a country that is cohesive, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no way we are going to have this animal in place, and then when we want to become the majority, people look at us with suspicious eyes. How can it be, Mr. Speaker? Members of Parliament are members of Parliament. They work under the Article 95 of the Constitution, which has given them the roles of oversight, legislation, and representation, Mr. Speaker. We are not going to do our business outside Article 95, Mr. Speaker. So I want to allay fears here that the majority in the House must be from the ruling party. That this ruling is giving us posterity. This is doing things for posterity, Mr. Speaker. Next election or the other election in 2032, a government might come in place where the president garners the majority votes and is elected as the president, but he will not have numbers in parliament. His numbers might be few in parliament and he becomes a minority. So this is now the trend we are setting, that parliament is independent, judiciary is independent, executive is independent. We have no problem with the executive to do their work, and we know the President of the Republic of Kenya as of today is Honorable William Samoei Ruto, Mr. Speaker. There is no doubt about that. So there should be no ambiguity and doubt that the majority leader in the National Assembly is Honorable Juliet Mohammed, the Member of Parliament for Sunday, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. And I am going to serve the country diligently, Mr. Speaker, without any fear and favor, Mr. Speaker. I am a seasoned politician. I am serving my third term in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. I know how Parliament operates. I know how Parliament does its work, and I understand how bills are done in this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. I have gained enough experience. So this mindset,
Wind up,
Mr. Speaker, this mindset that the ruling party must have majority in Parliament for them to do the executive work of the country, Mr. Speaker, that mindset must be gotten rid of, Mr. Speaker. We must emulate democracies that have matured over 200 years, Mr. Speaker. In the last election, in the last administration of Biden in America, Mr. Speaker,
wind up.
The Republican Party was controlling the House, Mr. Speaker, and the Democratic Party was controlling the Senate, and life was going on as usual, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, my advice to the House and to Parliament in general is that the only solution to this problem is to go to appeal. Until the appeal overturns this matter, I shall be recognized as the majority leader of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Those remarks, I conclude.
Kainan, order, honorable members, before order Wanjala. Order. In all civilized parliaments, when you appreciate a point, you thumb your foot. You don't stand up and throw your hands in the air. Kainan, before you take the floor, let's have some ground rules. Everybody are given an opportunity to speak. Can we do 3 minutes? Is that good enough? Everybody are given an opportunity. We do 3 minutes. I want 3 minutes. Let's also observe decorum. 3 minutes. Honorable Robert Mbui and Honorable Mwenje. If it is making a point, you have made your point. It is beneath your dignity to continue standing there while the matters are going on. Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is luckily.
Order. Let's hear each other in silence.
Mr. Speaker, this
if
is
you really want to get a reasoned ruling from the Speaker, let's hear each other. Kainan, give to Kainan.
Mr. Speaker, this is the House of Rules. This is the House of Traditions. This is a house that enjoys being a quasi-judicial institution. Mr. Speaker, on the face of it, I want to take this opportunity to welcome my colleagues to this very important session and say that the Kenyan people outside there are really looking upon us to deliberate in a civilized manner and guide this nation. Mr. Speaker, there comes a time when there are issues that must be deliberated and agreed upon. And I want to agree one thing with my brother Junet, that you are qualified even to be the President of the Republic of Kenya, not even the majority leader alone. Mr. Speaker, having said this, there are certain things that we must clear and follow the procedures, and it's only the procedures that will guide us. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the order paper today, the next order paper, order number 8, is supposed to provide for the appointment of members of the House Business Committee, which is the anchor committee for the House Business, Mr. Speaker. But we cannot reach there until certain issues are sorted out, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, now that we can discuss the appointment under this order number 8, I want to seek your guidance on the following. Mr. Speaker, it's apparent that the High Court last week has quashed the ruling contained in the Speaker's communication dated 6 October 2022 on the majority and the minority. That is a fact. It cannot be denied. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I had a chance to go through this great ruling. I've internalized, I've looked at it, I've seen what it means, I've seen what in the letter and interpretation of this, what the Speaker in the House is generally expected to do. Mr. Speaker, on the face of it, there are certain, the petitioner sought the following declaration to be issued that Azimio La Umoja One Kenya coalition is the majority party in the National Assembly based on the outcome of the general elections of the based on the outcome of the elections of members of the National Assembly held on 9th August. The second, Mr. Speaker, prayers was the declaration be issued to declare that Kenya Kwanza Alliance is a minority party in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the orders given, even under order number 4, it's a bit confusing. It is not explicit. It doesn't say this. The court declined. They quashed the Speaker's ruling, but did not give proper guidance on what constitutes the majority and the minority. Mr. Speaker, from...
Give him 1 minute.
It is clear, Mr. Speaker, the court quashed the ruling of the majority and the minority, but never answered the question on how this later on is going to be arrived in the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this means we are back to square one where we were when this parliament started. We are back to square one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, unless this question is determined, we are staring at a crisis. Mr. Speaker, I say this because standing order,
yes.
Standing order 171, I'm on a point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Wanjala. What's your point of order? Give him the mic. Give Wanjala the mic. There you are.
Mr. Speaker, courts are arbiters. And when they have given orders or declarations, it's up to the institution to implement. It is not debated.
Order,
you
Wanjala.
have seen the ruling of the court.
Order, Wanjala. Order. Order, Wanjala. I don't know whether... Have you even read that judgment? Have you read that judgment? Kainan, wind up.
Trying to say that unless this question pursuant to Standing Order 171 is determined, we are facing a crisis, and this crisis can only be sorted out with a proper guidance from the Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to say is this: this state of affairs, Mr. Speaker, portends a crisis for the House, Mr. Speaker, and therefore we want your guidance, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 171, on which party is the majority and which party is the minority. Once that is determined, Mr. Speaker, all the other things will flow, Mr. Speaker, and therefore I want to seek your guidance on this.
Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, he's occupying our space, Mr. Speaker. Why can't they just move to their side?
Order. Order, Robert Mbui. Order, Robert Mbui. If you listen to me carefully, Robert Mbui, order, members. And I want you to listen to this carefully. Order, members. Order. I did say, Robert Mbui, and you are misconducting yourself. You are too senior to be told to leave the chamber. I did say, and I want to repeat, and Emilio Odhiambo, who raised the point, has read this judgment clearly. The judgment quashed the direction of the Speaker on the majority-minority. The judgment never declared who is the majority. It is not the court to declare the majority. It is the Speaker of this House. And you better know that. It is the Speaker of the House to declare the majority. Robert Mbui gone. Not
Osoro.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to speak it up from what you've actually said, Honorable Speaker, that even upon reading the judgment of the court, the standing orders of this House, Honorable Speaker, gives you power to declare who is the majority and who is the minority. We appreciate the judgment of the court as it is. We are ventilating about the judgment. We respect the courts. But again, it is these very laws that govern, as Honorable Speaker, that give you that power, as Honorable Speaker, to declare the majority and minority. So even as Honorable Junet and the Honorable Millie Odiambo, Honorable Speaker, live on rented space, they should know that the final declaration of majority and minority comes from your seat, Honorable Speaker. But even then, Honorable Speaker, perhaps we should ponder and ask ourselves these very pertinent questions. In the past 2 years that we've served in this House, Honorable Speaker, we've served in these capacities, as it were, on who is the majority and who is the minority, Honorable Speaker. Several decisions have been made. We have formations of the committees that fall on the majority, minority, chairman, the committees that are supposed to be led by members from the majority side, and the committees that are led by the members of the minority side. Does it mean, Honorable Speaker, that every decision that has been passed by the committees, or any report that has been passed by the committee that falls on the minority, as it were then, and the majority, is it rendered mute as it is right now, Honorable Speaker? If going by the judgment, if we read on the judgment, like they want us to define it as it, just on plain paper, Honorable Speaker, that is question one. Question two that we should ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker. Right now, the selection panel, Honorable Speaker, of the IEBC that was nominated by both the minority parties or the Parliamentary Service Commission, that minority party brought the membership, the majority party brought the membership. The IEBC selection panel has already started working, Honorable Speaker, right now in terms of selecting the next commissioners. What then happens to them? What happens to that selection panel? Because they were appointed on the basis of the majority and the minority when the Parliamentary Service Commission submitted the names. Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker. The Commission for Revenue Authority, Honorable Speaker, that again is a preserve of both the minority and the majority. Honorable Speaker, what then happens on the decisions that have been made in the past 2 years? The allowances that have been paid, Honorable Speaker, the travels that have been made, everything that we've passed, Honorable Speaker, in this house. Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves because we are the midterm of this Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Even as we retire to make this your ruling, Honorable Speaker, it is important for us, Honorable Speaker, to ask ourselves those very pertinent questions because we shouldn't just be.
Okay. Thank you, Osoro. Give him a minute.
Honorable Speaker, you see, we shouldn't just be talking about positions on who is the minority, who is the majority leader. And as Honorable Junet as well put it, we are all members of parliament and we can serve in whatever capacity. But let's look at the implications of this decision, Honorable Speaker. What happens to what we've passed in the past 2 years? What happens to the right decisions that are leading this country in the past 2 years, Honorable Speaker? What happens to the IEBC selection panel? Those are the questions. Otherwise, I'll tell my colleagues, the Honorable Millie Odiambo, who is saying that she has added in her CV the position of the chief whip of the majority. She'll only do that, Honorable Speaker, in her dreams. It will not work. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
David Ocheng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the three judges.
Order, honorable members, can we listen to each other?
I want to thank
Save David Ocheng's time. Order, members. Order. Order, members on their feet. Take your seats. Honorable members, I have given you guidance and I want to repeat. The upshot of the judgment of the court, in law we say, we go back to the status quo ante. Status quo ante. When you go back to the status quo ante, then the House has to make a decision and a finding on who the majority is. The court has not declared any party a majority in this House. Read the judgment carefully. Don't speak from what you are hearing in the air. That is number one. Number two, order, Wanjala. I'm just giving you guidance so that you don't speak irrelevantly. We have gone back to the status quo ante. Convince the House as to its majority, the Speaker will make a finding. On a fact, David Ocheng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the three judges for their judgment of last week, Mr. Speaker. We got a new constitution that we keep testing and that keeps guiding us on how we run our affairs as a country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the law we passed in this parliament on coalition making, Mr. Speaker, it is presumed that there will be coalitions, people will leave coalitions, some will enter coalitions, Mr. Speaker, and so it is presupposed that in any term of parliament, Mr. Speaker, one side will be a minority today, tomorrow that side may be a majority, because this is a moving target, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as to who is minority or majority, it's not cast in stone, and therefore the finding by the court, Mr. Speaker, that the decision on who is majority and minority in the 13th parliament was decided on 8th of August 2022 is wrongful, Mr. Speaker. I disagree with it because, Mr. Speaker, today, if Ford Kenya and ANC that was left Kenya, Mr. Speaker, and joined Azimio will have more members than the remaining UDM, Mr. Speaker. And in that regard, Azimio will be the majority party, Mr. Speaker, and will be called upon to make that decision as Speaker and will decide as so. So I disagree with the judge's finding that the decision on who is majority and minority was made once. It cannot be made once. It depends on the facts of the day in this House. If, for example, tomorrow I'll be heard, I'm sure I'm going to be heard. I'm sure I'm going to be heard. I will be heard, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if today in Azimio, if Wiper left and Jubilee left and UDM left, Mr. Speaker, Azimio will have only ODM 85 members, Mr. Speaker. It will be a minority. So the decision on who is minority and majority, Mr. Speaker, moves like a pendulum depending on who has left which coalition. So you cannot tell us that that decision is made once only in the election, Mr. Speaker. And that's why the judges are wrong on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, very important, Mr. Speaker, it's very important to note, Mr. Speaker, that the day you made this decision, Mr. Speaker, the day you decided on this matter, you had facts before you. You had evidence before you telling you that UDM has left Azimio. MDG has left Azimio. UDM, MDG, NCPP, PA, you had those facts before you. You couldn't ignore those facts. You can't ignore them. Even in this, Mr. Speaker, you made a finding, Mr. Speaker, that the courts have not said that Azimio is a majority. The courts have said, go back and decide. And so Azimio must today convince you.
Yes. Morogara, I'll give you. Morogara.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what you need to decide on is the wording of Article 108 of the Constitution and the Standing Order number 19 of our standing orders. Of importance is the verb to be in that particular article and in that particular standing order. The minority or majority party is the party at that particular moment. And therefore, it is not cast on stone, as the court tried to tell Kenyans that majority and minority were determined on the election date. The words used, the tense used is, which means from time to time as the issue comes into question. Therefore, the court was wrong. And this is one of the, yes, I respect the decision of the court, but on appeal, we will be arguing that the three judges were wrong because they actually did not take into consideration the use of that verb to be by having it in the present tense that it is from time to time. And one example I can give is this. As at before the ruling, the majority was the Kenya Kwanza coalition. If the parties like UDA actually left Kenya Kwanza, does it continue to be the majority? It loses the status because that is determined from time to time by how many members are in the party or how many members are in a coalition. The court actually overreached when they went to interpret it this way, and we shall be taking these matters on appeal. But today, because the course of action of the 6th of October 2022 is spent, we require from you, Honorable Speaker, you give us another ruling using the verb to be. Present tense is who is the majority and minority today as we speak in Parliament. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Maclap.
Mr. Speaker, UDM had already changed the position, Mr. Speaker. So even if Wamunyora have changed their position now, Mr. Speaker, you need to ensure there is a post-election agreement, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are determining, Mr. Speaker, is a fundamental thing that will guide Parliament for many years. Mr. Speaker, we must determine how many post-election coalition agreements that shall continue to be there to guide the majority and minority in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. In that way, Mr. Speaker, we shall have Parliament that are made of people who are very sober, that they know where they are and where they sit, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in a parliamentary system, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter where you sit here in Parliament. It is only a tradition. It is only a tradition, Mr. Speaker. But in terms of determination, Mr. Speaker, of minority party or majority party, rests on your case, Mr. Speaker, and rests on existing post-election agreements that have continued to be there, Mr. Speaker. So it is over to you, Mr. Speaker. Based on those, Mr. Speaker, this is a continuous moving average, and it will continue to change, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Donya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact that, Mr. Speaker, you have told us that we debate and you are going to rule on this one. I ask myself, the fact that Azimio didn't win the election of the Speaker, who are the majority then? That is our question. If we are debating, if you didn't win, we didn't win. I'm in Azimio. We didn't win the position of the Speaker, who are the majority then. That is, yes, that is the answer. You should answer. Who won? Who won? Put the question, Mr. Speaker. Who won the position of the Speaker? Then, who are the majority? Then, we should be debating on other things, Mr. Speaker. We should help our people. Like Kisi, we have no water. We have no electricity. We are discussing things that have been shot straight. Who was the Speaker then when we came to Parliament? The first time on 29th of September, who was elected as the Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wamboka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My contribution is as follows. First, I'll speak as an elder from Luya community. No, you relax.
Order.
I'll speak as an elder from the Luya community that let's keep the speaker out of this issue. If you get to the position of the speaker, then we start taking sides and it will not be good. 2, Honorable Speaker, parties went for election and the law required that you choose which coalition you wanted to belong. At that point, that was to determine which side you belong. There was Azimio and there was Kenya Kwanza. Some people decided to sign agreement with the Kenya Kwanza. Some decided to sign agreements with Azimio. Please, let's respect that position. Then elections were held, results came out. Mr. Speaker, I know some members of parliament, when we had the first meeting of Azimio in KICC, we had Kinamutuse with us. It is only after realizing that the presidency is going Segemunege, that is how they shifted to the other side. But the fact that their numbers belonged to Azimio has not changed. Now, basic people here are trying to argue that you can change any other time. No, at the time of election, Azimio was the majority. Give us that position. Honorable Junet Mohammed is our majority leader. Honorable Millie Odhiambo is our majority whip. If you feel numbers have changed, bring that here on the table, we discuss it. That is a different thing. But as at election, Honorable Speaker, Azimio Party is the majority party of this House. Let the Speaker rule. If you feel you have numbers, bring it on. We deal with you. Mbagdo Osoro, you should be very ashamed. I thought you are a lawyer. Your arguments are below and below and below as a basic nursery school class. So you cannot tell us that. We are the majority. Mr. Speaker, what I've said about the Speaker stance, keep the Speaker out of these matters. Because sisi kama Waluya, hiyo ndio kiti tuko nayo peke yake. Msitufanyie mchezo.
Sabina Chege. Sabina Chege. Yes.
Thank you.
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Sabina, hold. Yes, Junet. What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member, Honorable Wamboka, who has just finished his contribution, Mr. Speaker, says that the only seat we have in this parliament, the seat of Luyas, is only yours, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, do we assume now?
Order, Honorable. He also said, keep the Speaker out of this. So keep me out of this. Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that this judgment is meant to bring paralysis in this House. And you need, Mr. Speaker, to make a decision on this matter. Having listened to my colleagues on this judgment, and I've also gone through it, Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of consideration on the status quo as on 6th of October, 2022. Mr. Speaker, from 6th of October, many things have changed. Mr. Speaker, after your ruling, we made committees that were formed in this House. Mr. Speaker, there is also Parliamentary Service Commission that was also formed based on the minority and the majority. We have the IBC Select Commission. Mr. Speaker, we also, as a House, gave the leadership. Early this month, Mr. Speaker, we also received communication or reconstitution of the committees. And this afternoon, we're meant to have the House Business Committee. And so, Mr. Speaker, the big question I'm asking myself. So who are going to be the chairs or the membership based on the majority and minority? And I think as a House, Mr. Speaker, and the fact that you're supposed to give a decision, you need to clear the air on the issue of majority and minority. After 2 years, Mr. Speaker, many things have changed. There are post and there are pre-coalition agreements. There are some coalition agreements that were done before the election, Mr. Speaker. If we take the case of Chap, Mr. Speaker, even before the election, they had left the coalition that they had signed with before. And so as we make the decision, are they part of Azimio? And the other question is, does Azimio still exist? Mr. Speaker, as a Jubilee Party, June 2023, we wrote a letter here as members of Jubilee Committee and requested to be an independent political party. So, Mr. Speaker, as we make this decision, are we going to be counted in Azimio, or are we going to be counted as independent? And because, Mr. Speaker, we hold these positions, we need clear guidance, Mr. Speaker, on this issue, so that as the whip sit down to reallocate the position, we know where we belong. Simple mathematics, if people are doubting, we can do mlolongo as year's time. We can do the calculation on who is on Kenya Kwanza, who is on Azimio, and make a decision, Mr. Speaker, instead of wasting time, Mr. Speaker, on precious time where you're supposed to be passing important bills in this republic. Then, Mr. Speaker, finally, there is broad-based government. So where do we stand?
Thank you. Otienda Molo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for starters, and because not all members have read the judgment, allow me to read 3 paragraphs so that people are in tandem. Paragraph 504. We thus hold and find that the simultaneous holding of the position of Speaker with that of the leader of political party and the leadership positions in the ruling political coalition, as in the case with the current National Assembly, and the concluding part is this dual role is therefore unlawful and unconstitutional. Mr. Speaker, that is paragraph 504. They continue in 505. We hold that the Speaker was elected in accordance with Article 106 of the Standing Orders. The fact that he was a party leader at the time of his election could not invalidate his election. However, for the reasons we have given, his position as the leader of Port Kenya or the leader of any other political office, for that matter, became untenable and inconsequential the moment he assumed the office of the Speaker of the National Assembly. He could not, and he has no capacity to perform any other functions as a leader of a political party or a political organ as long as he is the Speaker of the National Assembly. I've referred to 2 paragraphs, 504 and 505. That is on the whether the court expressly found the 2 offices untenable. And I will be making a concession separately. Now, 508, and this is important because I think we are debating in ignorance, Mr. Speaker. 508, it is hereby declared that the question as to which party or coalition assembly in the 13th Parliament was determined by the sovereign will of the Kenyan voters during the 9th August 2022 general election. It continues, Roman 2, it is hereby declared that the Honorable Speaker's ruling on determination contained in his null and void. Roman 3, it is hereby declared that the Honorable Speaker's ruling on determination, blah, 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 on the minority, again, is null and void. And finally, an order of certiorari is hereby issued quashing the Speaker's ruling. Let me now make my submission, Mr. Speaker. First of all, this matter did not go to court in vain. The contestation, Mr. Speaker, was your considered ruling of 6th of October. Once that ruling is quashed, you cannot then, Mr. Speaker, with due respect, come and say that no decision has been made. The consequences are 2. 1, the leader of minority becomes the leader of majority by operation of law, even if you do nothing else. But in this case, we have gone further. And under Standing Order 19A, Standing Order 3, it
I'll add you 1 minute. 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, under 19A is very clear. The majority party whip shall communicate the name of the members elected under paragraph 1 to the Speaker in writing. And that was already done by the Honorable Millie Mabona. That settles that case. Mr. Speaker, the only way we can start debating whether this decision quashes and changes the position of majority and minority is if we want to practice impunity. Mr. Speaker, and I agree with the observations, it is not in this forum to question the reasoning in the judgment. That must be questioned elsewhere. The only issue is it the finding of the court? And it is. And if we are to be a country that practices the rule of law, let it be appealed. But until then, let it be implemented. Let the Honorable Junaid Mohammed be the majority leader. And it does not matter whether you are in government or not, because we are not debating who's in government and who's not. We are not debating the reasoning. Mr. Speaker, we are not even debating your election because we all participated. Some of us who are not in the other party still voted for you. So,
Milemba.
Order, Wanjala. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Order, Wanjala. It suffices to mention that the Senior Counsel has also read the judgment very selectively. Very selectively. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I think this judgment is good, and I want to ask members to exercise restraint the way we are doing as we deal with it, because it will grow our own standing orders and decisions that have been taken by this parliament before, just like when we had the stalemate on who should lead the House Business Committee, and the Honorable Marende made the ruling that has been talked about. Honorable Speaker, in the judgments, which I've also read about 508 paragraphs, I want to spot out one, and which I think the Senior Counsel did speak on. And that's the one that says that the question as to which the party or coalition of a party is a majority party was determined by the sovereign will of the people on the 9th August 2022. That is as it goes. Honorable Speaker, this statement and these paragraphs presumes that Parliament will stay static and there will be no changes in Parliament as at the time when the elections was done. The truth is that if we were to follow this, it would mean that majority party would remain majority party for 5 years as determined at the time of the general elections. That is not correct. Majority and minority parties are fluid situation that keeps on changing depending on many happenings within Parliament. We know of the by-elections that are forthcoming in some of the constituencies. We have 4 constituencies which you can name: Benisa, Ugenya, and others which lost or don't have members of Parliament. What are the kind of results that will come out of that situation? Will it not numerically affect the majority and minority leadership in the House? Those are issues that I want you, Honorable Speaker, to determine. It also assumes that there are no post-election agreements which can be done. When you go to Schedule 3 of the political parties, it talks about how coalitions can be entered. You can get out of coalitions, and it determines how they can be done in law. If all those changes have happened, then we cannot be static and say that it is static for 5 years. And therefore, one other reason, Honorable Speaker and members, why the court did not go to the extent of determining is because there are 3 arms of government. They have the legislature, we have Parliament, and we have the judiciary. And the Parliament is independent, honorable members. Let's not allow that we shall be told what to do. Here, this must be done by the rules and order of Parliament, which is our own standing orders. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, you have to make a ruling on this, on which political party, as of now, give me some more time, is the majority in the House. This is not a static position. It's a fluid position that keeps on changing. Let me refer to governments like governments in Germany, Israel, very good examples. Currently, the Prime Minister of Canada is going to resign. Why? Because he has lost some of the coalition parties that were around him. Once he loses them, he's no longer the leader. And therefore, we have to rearrange Parliament. Thank you, and I submit.
Karole Omondi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I did raise this matter on October 6th. Actually, it was my first statement in this House on the question of which of the coalitions was majority party in this House. The courts have made that decision somewhat by not declaring, but by giving the indication as to how the process should be done. I think we should frame our issues in terms of 5 questions. On the question of what is majority party, it is not for the court, it is not for the speaker to decide. It is not even for this House to debate and decide. Our standing orders clearly provide the mechanism of determining which is the majority party in this House. The clerk writes to the registrar of political parties. The registrar of political parties gives us a return based on IEBC election results. And on the basis of the letter from the registrar of political parties, this House gets to know which is the majority party. That is the position in law. That is the position in law. And that is what I raised on October 6, 2022. And that is the path we must go back to. That is the path we must go back to. It is not for the courts, it's not for the speaker, it is not for this House to debate or decide the majority party. Second question is who the majority leader or the minority leader is. By dint of this decision, as we speak today in this House, there is neither a majority leader nor a minority leader. By dint of that decision. And again, our standing orders and the Constitution provide a pathway. We have, as coalitions, must hold elections and bring minutes tabled in this House to determine who the majority leader is, who the minority leader is. That has not been done. So there is no majority leader, there is no minority leader today. My friend Kimani Chungwa is out of work, Junet Mohammed is out of work. The third question is the question of the import of this judgment on the position of the Speaker. The position in law is that the Speaker was elected by a majority of members of this House. This decision does not affect your position. Number 4, the question of the constitution of the committees of this House. We cannot even proceed to constitute the House Business Committee today because we neither have a majority or a minority leader. We have to determine those questions first before we go forth and constitute committees of the House. Finally, the impact of this decision on the previous decisions of this House. None. Whatever was done then in good faith holds. We must now proceed and write to the registrar to tell us who the majority party is. That is the position in law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader for Kimani Chungwa.
Thank you.
Kimani Chungwa will speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chungwa will speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me first welcome members back to the House after the long recess and join you in thanking members even for showing up during the special sitting last month. Honorable Speaker, I also take cognizance of the issues before you and before the House. Let me start on a light note, Honorable Speaker, by saying to my brother, Honorable Junet, he said that this seat seems to be warm. And this seat is a seat like any other in this House. I know in a presidential system, Honorable Speaker, any member can sit anywhere. And if the Honorable Junet feels this seat is warmer than his, we must make sure that we warm Junet's seat wherever he sits so that he feels the warmth of the House. Honorable Speaker, the matter before us is a straightforward matter. And I want to agree with many of the things that have been said, including what the Honorable Karoli Omondi has just said, that the import of this court ruling has nothing to do with past decisions of this House over the last 2 years. Because decisions of the House, whether it is legislation, whether it is approvals that we make, are not made by a party. Neither are they made as business owned by the leader.
Order, Bensouda. You can't just dash across the floor like that. Order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Bensouda is not used to sitting on this side of the House, so we may forgive her. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that decisions of the House are decisions of Parliament. That is why when we move a bill, a government bill, moved by the leader of majority, when it is approved by the House and enacted as law, it becomes an act of Parliament, not an act of the leader of majority or an act of the government of Kenya. It becomes an act of Parliament.
Therefore, all previous decisions made by this House have been decisions of the House, and the House subsists as it were on the 9th of August 2022, as it is today, Honorable Speaker, with the unfortunate loss of one or two of our members who have lost, one through a by-election and one by passing on. Honorable Speaker, we also have a very good constitution, Honorable Speaker. And as much as I respect the decision of the court, I completely disagree with the court in many aspects, and some of which have been touched on. I do not want to dwell on to them, Honorable Speaker. But the question that we need to ask you, Honorable Speaker, and ask ourselves, what is it out of the 34 prayers? Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of loud consultations behind me.
Order, members.
I say, Honorable Speaker, the gentleman who went to court with a total of 34 prayers before the court. Amongst those prayers was a declaration by the court that the Azimio coalition be declared as a majority party, and the leader of the Azimio coalition in parliament be declared as the majority leader in the House. The court declined to give that declaration or that ruling. The only ruling out of the 34, Honorable Speaker, that was given by the court was to annul your ruling of October 2022. And the import of that annulment, Honorable Speaker, when they said that they found it to be unconstitutional, null and void, the import of that is we go back to the status quo as at 9th of August 2022.
It's called status quo ante.
Status quo ante, Honorable Speaker. You know, I'm only an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, Honorable Speaker. But at least, I also know, Honorable Speaker, because I studied in commercial law, in my accounting studies, the doctrine of ultra vires, where anything that is ultra vires the Constitution, any
Give him a minute.
Any statute, Honorable Speaker, or any act of parliament that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void to the extent of that inconsistency. And I was saying we have a beautiful Constitution because this Constitution gives powers, or rather powers to enjoy rights, including the right of association, which is the most important thing in our Constitution. Chapter 4 is what, Chapter 4 for Constitution on the Bill of Rights is what has built our Constitution as amongst the most progressive constitutions in the world. Therefore, the members, the 14 members in question, Honorable Speaker, from UDM, PA, MDDG, MCCP, enjoy certain rights that not an act of parliament can take away from them, including the right to associate. No court, no law can tell the member for Ugenya, MDDG, that he must remain in Azimio. There is no court, no act of parliament, including the Political Parties and the Political Parties Coalition Act that was acrimoniously passed in this House at the tail end of the last parliament, can force the 8 members of UDM to associate with Azimio. That cannot happen, Honorable Speaker, and that is why, to a large extent, I disagree with the court, because those 14 members enjoy certain inalienable rights to enjoy their rights of association, to associate with the political coalition they desired. And they told us, the Honorable Speaker, letters were tabled, including letters, Honorable Speaker, that I have seen from the Registrar of Political Parties, ascertaining that MDDG, UDM, PA, Maendeleo Chap have left Azimio. The leader of Jubilee Party in this House, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Sabina Chege, has today enjoys a position as a whip of an independent parliamentary political party called Jubilee. On that basis, Honorable Speaker, Jubilee then cannot and shall not and shall never be counted as part of Azimio. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what, Honorable Speaker, we are inviting you to make a decision on the status quo ante. On status quo ante, Honorable Speaker, it is up to you as a speaker to now make a fresh ruling, since you are ruling.
Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, it is not my intention to interrupt.
You have already done so.
Yeah, my colleague, Mr. Speaker, the minority leader. Mr. Speaker, is it correct, Mr. Speaker, for the minority leader to mislead the House that those parties who are members of Azimio cannot be forced to stay in Azimio, Mr. Speaker? To that extent, Mr. Speaker, there is a procedure of getting out of Azimio, Mr. Speaker. They have not followed the procedure, Mr. Speaker, and I can tell you I'm the Secretary General of Azimio, Mr. Speaker. They only wrote letters to me. They never followed the procedure, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I can see David Ochieng wants to respond to me. That's one member party, Mr. Speaker. We're going to discuss in this, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Junet. Don't disparage your colleagues. You are better than that. Kimani Ichung'wah, you have 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, so that I do not waste a lot of time, I was saying that what you are being called upon to determine from the status quo ante is as we speak now, because your decision or your ruling of October has been annulled by the court. Respect to that court ruling is paramount, and you must respect it. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, myself, in respect of that court ruling, today, I have appeared here and decided to sit with my brother, Honorable Junet, wherever I can sit, Honorable Speaker, because that ruling being annulled now calls on you to now look at the facts as they are today and numbers as they are. Honorable Speaker, you know, last week we got letters from the clerk's office, myself and the Honorable Junet Mohammed, to submit names for the House Business Committee. And it is important to note, Honorable Speaker, that both of us have since submitted names to the House Business Committee, names which appear on the order paper today, both from the minority side and from the majority side, Honorable Speaker. And when we did that, Honorable Speaker, we were cognizant, because we did the letters, some as late as yesterday, of the court ruling. I therefore want to ask you, Honorable Speaker, as you make your decision on this matter, to look at all the facts as they are. The 14 contentious slots in Azimio, and I agree with Honorable Junet, there was a process of getting out of Azimio. That process, has it been followed? Are there letters? Because, Honorable Speaker, I have seen letters that confirm that UDM, MCCCP, PA, MDDG have left Azimio. The Honorable Sabina Chege, Honorable Speaker, I am speaking about the letters, Honorable Speaker, that I have, which I will table before the House, Honorable Speaker, because I have copies in the office from the Registrar of Political Parties. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg of you that as you make that decision, look at those facts. Also, Honorable Speaker, look at the facts that today, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Osoro did submit a letter to you on my nomination and election as a leader of majority in September of 2022, signed and assented to by over 171 members of this House. The Honorable Junet Mohammed, late last year, after the Honorable Pio left, did submit the whip.
Yes, wind up.
The Honorable Junet Mohammed, in his nomination as the leader of minority, did submit a letter nominating him upon election by Azimio coalition as a minority leader, signed by a paltry 80 members of the Azimio coalition. Actually less than even what is provided for in our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker. Less than what is provided for in our standing orders, because our standing orders have a certain threshold as to who and how many members should have elected you as a minority leader, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is my humble submission that you have facts on your table. Make a ruling when the time comes.
Mwengi Mutuse. Pardon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, David Ocheng, what is the point of order?
I was mentioned advisory by the Honorable Junet.
I told him it was out of order, so you are protected.
Mr. Speaker, I just need to mention something that Mr. Junet claims to be the Secretary General of Azimio. Could you tell this House today where the Azimio offices are in this country?
Mwenge Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if you may protect me, that I may be heard in silence.
Order, members. Order.
Mr. Speaker, we are debating a very important matter. And you are sitting on a very delicate matter. When you retire to make a ruling, you'll be making a ruling for the country. I am one of the lawyers who participated in the litigation that led to this decision. And therefore, I am aware of the facts and the law and the arguments that went into court for this determination to be made. Mr. Speaker, importantly, as you retreat, I am elected under the Maendeleo Chapter Party, which is one of the parties whose membership is under dispute. I will be tabling before this House a letter dated 30th January 2024 by the Registrar of Political Parties confirming that Maendeleo Chapter Party is no longer a member of the Azimio One Kenya coalition. And I will be asking you, when you retreat, to give effect to that exit in line with the ruling that you made on the 6th of August 2023, as well as the judgment of the court. Mr. Speaker, as you retreat also, I will invite you to look at an important doctrine that has been developed by the Supreme Court in the United States, and that has been applied locally. And this is the political question doctrine, or the doctrine of justiciability. This doctrine was developed so that the separation of powers can be given effect, so that matters that are for the legislature are left to the legislature, matters that are for the judiciary are left to the judiciary, and matters that are for the executive are left to the executive. It is my submission that the matter of determining the minority leadership and the majority leadership is a matter for Parliament and is not a matter for courts of law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is important to look at the gazettement, the gazette notice that declared the members who have won positions. In the gazettement that was released by the IEBC, there was no mention of coalitions. There was no mention of Azimio. There was no mention of Kenya Kwanza. In my constituency, they declared Mwengi Mutuse the winner under Maendeleo Chap. In all the other constituencies, and if you look at that gazette notice, there was no mention of a coalition. And therefore, you cannot assign membership based on the election. You assign membership based on the realities of the day. And this is to say that the issue of minority and majority is a moving target and can change anytime. And therefore, I urge you, Mr. Speaker, as I table this letter, to find that the numbers for Maendeleo Chap, we exited Azimio, and therefore, we should be counted on the Kenya Kwanza side.
Thank you. Madenge of Nyeri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by acknowledging that in our country, the formation of coalitions is around post and pre-elections. And therefore, the determination of this case, Honorable Speaker, would only have benefited Azimio if the courts had made their determination urgently as the case was taken to court under a certificate of urgency. This judgment, coming 2 years late, is unimplementable because the realities are that there have been movements in and out of Azimio. Mr. Speaker, it is important that also this House addresses the judiciary, that it is no longer tenable for the judiciary to certify a matter urgent, but make a determination 2 years late. So where is the urgency? And we must be practical in terms of handling the issues of Kenyans when they go before the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, as at this point in time, the only way out of this quagmire is for you, Mr. Speaker, and Parliament to communicate afresh to the registrar of political parties and give us the facts as they are today, and on the basis of the response from the registrar of political parties, make a determination as to which party has the majority members, and therefore let us move on with the business of the House. Honorable Speaker, I urge you to actually start and make a ruling on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didimas.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this position, opportunity. I have read the court ruling. The ruling touches on a number of issues that requires constitutional direction, Honorable Speaker, so that nobody else can misuse those kind of things to put this House into limbo, Honorable Speaker. I have singled out from what the court said that because you belong to a political coalition, you are not impartial in a manner that the Speaker of this House is required, Honorable Speaker. As you retreat to make a ruling on this matter, I want you to put your mind on what the framers of our Constitution and our standing orders mitigated when they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't have a vote. When they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't influence in a manner in which the members of this House will make a decision. Honorable Speaker, Kenya as a country and our House takes a lot of what happens in other countries of comparable jurisdictions. An example of a country, the United States, where their system is also purely presidential system. Our system is also presidential, Honorable Speaker. If you look at how Nancy Pelosi presided over the affairs of the Parliament of the United States, Honorable Speaker, yet she belonged to the Democrat Party, Honorable Speaker. If you look at what's happening now, the current Speaker, it belongs to the Republican. But that doesn't stop them from being impartial in their conduct of the affair of the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you make a ruling on this, you must be guided by Article 122 of our Constitution that it makes it very clear that the Speaker of the House doesn't participate in the affairs of the House, Honorable Speaker. Last but not least, the role of the courts is not to make any law, but to interpret the law. When we went to elect you as Speaker of this House, we were guided by the standing orders. There is no qualifications as to which, on whether the Speaker should not be a member of any political party. And above all, Honorable Speaker, the Speaker is a member of Parliament. So as you retreat to make the determination, you must bring to the attention of the country that the Speaker is indeed a member of Parliament, but not a civil servant. I beg to differ with the ruling of the court, Honorable Speaker.
Major Bashir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to give my input on this matter. Honorable Speaker, this matter is a matter that you have ruled on 6 October 2022. It's now almost 2 years and looks like you have been taken back on something that you have made a ruling. And from that time up to now, I think this House has done exceptionally well in executing its duty and mandate. Now that we have been taken back, and I think the ruling itself is not in good faith. Honorable Speaker, I was looking at the ruling itself. One thing that I picked is the issue that said the electorates determined who is...
Yes, member for Kibra. What's your point of order? Hold Bashir's time. Yes, Orone.
Honorable Speaker, only 30 members have spoken. I would wish that we reduce the minutes from 5 to 2.
We are doing 3. 3 minutes, Orone, is not too bad.
It's not too much.
Go on, Bashir. Pardon?
Honorable Speaker, I was saying that in part of the ruling, it stated that the voters determined who is majority and minority during the ballot. if you look at the specimen of the ballot paper, there was nowhere written Kenya Kwanza coalition or Azimio coalition. It was just individual members and individual parties. So I think on that aspect, they might have gone a bit too low on that aspect as well. So there's no way the voters will have determined who is a member of a coalition and who is not a member of a coalition. Honorable Speaker, there is what we call pre-election pacts and post-election pacts. For the purpose of UDM, which I'm a member as well, we had a pre-election pact with Azimio coalition. We also had, after the elections, post-election pact with Kenya Kwanza. It's allowed. It is there in our statutes. There's no doubt about it. So if we, as UDM, decided that now we are working and have a relationship with Kenya Kwanza, I think no one can stop us from saying, why are you interacting? There's freedom of assertion, freedom of speech as well. So I think on that matter, and as you make your determination, the only person that you need to rely on is to ask the registrar of political parties to tell you what is the status of these 14 members through their parties and determine whether they belong to Kenya Kwanza or they belong to Azimio coalition. And I think on that aspect, we'll go back to what we call the status quo ante until you make the declaration. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Jen Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I attempted to understand the ruling and I realized it was 71 pages, 507 paragraphs. I read that there were 34 prayers, but the judges only honored 3. Honorable Speaker, in one of the rulings, the first one, the judges said that the majority and minority were already determined at the ballot on 9th August 2022. Honorable Speaker, as a layman, I would want to translate this to mean that the determination that was done at the ballot paper is based on the members of parliament seated in this house, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I believe it's in your power to determine who the majority and the minority are by even a simple head count. I believe in the Constitution there is the freedom of association and any member can choose to be in whatever coalition they are in. Honorable Speaker, I believe it will be your honor to make the determination of the minority majority based on that. And I believe for the parties that already left their coalitions, there is a right to be in new associations that they deem comfortable and necessary for them. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Jen. Deputy Speaker, you said you wanted gender. Now let me give the women. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think when this judgment came out, I remember reading it with a lot of disbelief as a lawyer. And first of all, maybe I can correct Honorable Junet. The court did not say that Azimio is the majority party. So you actually cannot be sitting on that seat. That is going to be determined by the speaker. As we speak now, that is not the case. So I said, I just wanted to point out a few things here. When I read the judgment, I can say it's conflated, it's convoluted, it is confusing, and it even reveals that there was no laws looked into. For example, the argument that the speaker cannot be a member of a political party or be a political party leader is flawed. Because first of all, Section 12 of the Political Parties Act prohibits every public officer from getting into a party or in politicking. But in subclause 2, it gives an exemption to the president, the deputy president, members of parliament, members of the county assembly, governors, and deputy governors. And the speaker is a member of the National Assembly. Article 97 of the Constitution gives the membership of parliament, which includes the speaker, the substantive speaker, as an ex-officio member. So even just from looking at that, and that is why I would like my colleagues who are praising the judgment to know that it has very glaring, complete disregard of the law. And that's why you don't need to be a magician. Just read Article 97 of the Constitution and then read Section 12, subsection 2. Also, if you see the way the court has interpreted the law and said that the determination of who is a majority party and minority party is decided by the people at the time of the ballot. Again, that is inaccurate. Kenya is a first past the post electoral system, which means it is individuals who have voted who can enter into a coalition and join parties. And I think they are confusing it with the South African method, because the South Africa has a mixed member proportional representation system. So people are voted in by parties, not as individuals. And so just looking at that, we need to also ask ourselves in Parliament that how is it that we have a judiciary that does not follow the same laws that they are supposed to apply and interpret? Also, if you look at when during the arguments of the case, the judgment itself in the judgment says that they decided to look at other evidence and that they did not have any evidence of who had left the coalition. But at the same breath, in the same judgment, they contradict themselves and point out that the Register of Political Parties provided for them the evidence. And even as we speak now, Honorable Speaker, when you are away is when this judgment came out. And immediately, I instructed the clerk of the National Assembly to write to the Registrar of Political Parties to give us a true position of how the membership is organized. And therefore, I'm requesting that the clerk should be able to give me that letter so that I can table it and let it become part of these proceedings. And then purely that it will be your decision to make a ruling as to the majority and minority parties as the speaker, and the courts don't have any power to do it. That's why, even though they nullified your ruling, they did not actually make any declaration, because they know that that is a pure mandate of the speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to first and foremost seek that you clarify on one or two issues, basically. The issue, Honorable Speaker, to do with among the very many prayers that were cited by the petitioner was the prayer to declare the seat of yourself as being vacant. A situation which you tried to explain, Honorable Speaker, in the beginning, but my take could be, it goes differently, Honorable Speaker. That, Honorable Speaker, we all know Article 106(2) particularly gives us the analysis how you can vacate your office, Honorable Speaker. But in this case, Honorable Speaker, the court appears to be following the petitioner who is chasing on the wild goose to understand, Honorable Speaker, how you can release because of your party affiliation. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I'll be seeking that you clarify in your ruling on whether how the court has come up with this decision, on whether this is in order, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, number two on the prayers requested is about the Article 103, as it appears together with the Political Parties Act, particularly Section 14, Honorable Speaker, which puts you to, which Honorable Speaker, the petitioner wanted to understand whether by virtue of our association, a member can exit a political party or a coalition. But Honorable Speaker, the ruling has not appeared to me to satisfactorily respond to it. Therefore, I'll be seeking, Honorable Speaker, that you clarify whether it is true that there is another way other than writing to the Register of Political Party to respond to confirm that I am or I belong to a particular coalition or a particular party. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, those are my two issues. I would wish that you clarify as you make your ruling.
Thank you. Kaluma.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the High Court speakers made this decision pursuant to Article 165 of the Constitution. And Honorable Speaker, that power gives the High Court original jurisdiction over matters concerning questions of interpretation of the Constitution. But Honorable Speaker, we must be alive to the fact that the High Court only exercises original jurisdiction. This matter most likely will go to the Court of Appeal under Article 164, and ultimately, Honorable Speaker, to the Supreme Court under Article 163 because it is a matter concerning constitutional interpretation. And Honorable Speaker, I therefore want to say that you may be in your right place to make a decision on this matter, but I request you have regard to the provisions of Article 10, Sub-Article 2, as you communicate your position to guide us in terms of how to proceed. Honorable Speaker, having said so, as you make your decision, I wanted to request that you help us understand and resolve the following matters. Number one, Honorable Speaker, what members are asking is the determination of which party is majority or minority in parliament a de jure determination or it is a de facto? Is it based on law or it sits on existing facts? And Honorable Speaker, may your communication clarify that. I'm asking Honorable Speaker, together with the honorable members, that is it a decision to be made at once at elections and then it remains static, or it is capable of change due to the possibility of post-election coalitions? Honorable Speaker, we've seen this in Israel, we've seen this in Germany. What happens if it is static, and at once, if these parties like UDM, the parties like MDG, the parties that were to move from Azimio, were to actually effectively, successfully, and lawfully move from Azimio and join Kenya Kwanza, how would that position sit with the judgment? Honorable Speaker, I'm also asking you to clarify that if the determination is static, then Honorable Speaker, how does the judgment sit with the provisions of Article 36 of the Constitution? And Honorable Speaker, as you make your determination, I wanted to
give him 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, would you look, when you decide, at the provisions of Standing Order number 178, subsection 2, as read with Standing Order 174, subsection 2A. Honorable Speaker, what I'm asking, to what extent does this decision affect leadership of oversight committees like PAC-PIC? Or asked differently, can the members of the parties which the judgment has said did not move from Azimio seek to chair those oversight committees and members who are independent? And to what extent would it affect our side? Lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the matter concerning the sitting of the Speaker, I would request that you look at the provisions of Article 106, Sub-Article 2. But lastly, Honorable Speaker, as a supporter of broad-based government, allow me only to say this. Honorable Speaker, it is very painful when supporters of broad-based government are traveling like to Mombasa and they go to economy and you find Gakuya wa Muchomba sitting on business class because they're chairs of committee. We want reorganization that ensures equity in the broad-based system. And that is why I would agree that whatever decision you make, we must be equally integrated as a broad-based government in a presidential system. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Lillian Kogo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. And I must say that in the spirit of separation of powers, whatever we decide on the plenary is unanimously decided by the Speaker of the National Assembly. And in the recent past, the judiciary has had its own share of problems, which it could be making diversions from to make attention to Parliament. Why is this particular judgment being made 2.5 years after elections? What is their intention? We have issues of governance that we want to solve for our people. The people of Rangwe have no roads. I am not interested on who majority or minority is, but I want Junet Muhammad to be the majority. But for all I care right now is service delivery to the people of Kenya. This is what I want to say concerning this matter. We have 345 members or thereabout in the National Assembly. Where they come from, known with their names. Let next Tuesday determine this matter. Let everybody come in. Let us tell us whether they want to be majority or minority. We dispense with this matter and we go to serious national issues that will help the executive deliver on its mandate. And even us as members of National Assembly, we have a mandate to deliver to the people of the Republic of Kenya. And when it comes to voting for the Speaker of National Assembly, I will personally vote for one Moses Masika Wetangula to be the Speaker of National Assembly, so that we stop wasting a lot of time. We stop wasting a lot of time, Honorable Speaker. The world is moving forward. What are we doing as Kenyans? And if we are talking of majority and minority, how could majority impeach its own vice president? This is something that happened last year. So goals have shifted, posts have shifted, as it were, wakisema ni Junet niko na yeye. But what we want is that we want service delivery to Kenyans in the best way possible.
Thank you, member for Keyo South. Oh, I'll give you, don't worry. Everybody will speak. There's plenty of time. I'm in no hurry. I'll listen to all of you. You are making my mind richer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like my other colleagues, I have also read the judgment from the court. And Mr. Speaker, the only thing which they said you did wrong was that you didn't submit in your affidavit the evidence that the three parties. Mr. Speaker, you need to protect me.
You are protected. Go on. Wanjala, you are making the member on the floor feel intimidated.
Mr. Speaker, I have read the same judgment like my colleagues. And Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me say that you have never been impartial in this house. You have always been impartial. That one, there is no question. Mr. Speaker, the three-judge bench say that your only problem is that you didn't submit the evidence in your affidavit. So, Mr. Speaker, what you just need to do is to write to the registrar of political parties, get the evidence that the three parties, that is the UDM, PA, and the rest, that there are 14 members belong to Kenya Kwanza coalition. And Mr. Speaker, I also want to agree with my colleagues that the coalitions keep changing. Yesterday, we might have a coalition with 2 or 3 parties. Tomorrow, one coalition can move from this, one party can move from this coalition to another coalition. So the position of which party is majority or minority is dependent on which party has moved to which coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, in your ruling, just write to the registrar of political parties, get us which coalition has how many members, and that matter is put to rest. Otherwise, like my colleague has said, that matter should rest here. The work of the court is not to decide which party or which coalition has how many members. It is the work and the ruling of the Speaker to decide which coalition has how many members. And as my colleagues have said, the court did not say that Asmio is the majority, or this one is the majority. That's the work of the Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, as you make your ruling, we'll abide by your ruling. Thank you.
Nyaribari Chache.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I read the ruling, and in what I see as a strange judgment and one which is purely personal, driven by mischief. Honorable Speaker, why do I say so? The judgment stated that the Speaker is a stranger to this House and not a member of this House. Is this not shocking that the very persons who are supposed to interpret and apply the Constitution disregarded the plain provisions of Article 97 of the Constitution, which clearly states that you are a member of this House? In any case, Honorable Speaker, it is plain truth that the Speaker of any parliament is actually a member number one of that parliament. For the court to misread the Constitution to create public perception that you, the Speaker of the National Assembly, are not a member of Parliament, in my opinion, amending the Constitution within the walls of the courtroom, contrary to the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, the same judgment went to great lengths to explain how the Speaker cannot hold a political office. Now, where is it written in the Constitution that a Speaker elected by members of this House cannot hold a political office? Where in, Honorable Speaker, to note is that the same court never gave final orders that the Speaker of the National Assembly cannot hold this political office. Honorable Speaker, how did the question of which is the majority and minority parties end up being a question to determine whether the Speaker can hold a political office? Honorable Speaker, allow me to say this, that we will not sit here and watch unknown forces try to play dirty within the House and the sanctity of the speakership. As our Speaker, we say no to such games. As our great Mulembe son, we say no to such antics. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, as our great national leader, we say a loud no to such games, and you stay put. I raise my case, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Nyaribari Chache. Nabi Nabwera. Can I reduce to 2 minutes? No. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nabi, compose your argument, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the following to say. Mr. Speaker, I want to associate myself with the comments made by Karoli Omondi. Mr. Speaker, this ruling is inviting you to make a finding. And Mr. Speaker, to make that finding, it is so simple, based on our Constitution, the Political Parties Act, and the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, can you be invited to make a finding based on the following? Number one, the letter from the Register of Political Parties, as the situation is. Number two, the spirit of broad-based. In fact, if I was Ichungwa Kimani today, in the spirit of broad-based, having done 2.5 years as majority leader, I would have come here and said, now, Mr. Junet, we are the drivers of broad-based. Can you now take over and take this ship to the next level? That is what we want in broad-based, to unite the country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I have realized in the recent past, just like what happened in 2013, 2014, a group of people, and I name them, the national media, and the courts targeting Parliament. And I want to call upon my colleagues in this House. This judgment is not about the Speaker, it's about Parliament. If we don't stand up against the judiciary, we are headed to the wrong direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Betty Maina. Betty Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek for
Remember
your
you have 2 minutes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is to seek for your clarification. Who is to guide this House when there is a stalemate? Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the court found that the decision you made in this House was null and void. My question is, in incidents like today, there is a lacuna. Who should make such decisions in this House? Finally, Mr. Speaker, is it within your inherent powers of the Speaker under Standing Order number 1 to make decisions of this House all our court? I ask those questions humbly, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Marian Kaitani.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to make reference to a letter that is doing the rounds on social media, and I think it's been written to you for your resignation following the judgment or the ruling of this case. Now, Honorable Speaker, reading the judgment of this particular ruling, nowhere in this ruling does it say that the Speaker shall, upon this ruling, resign. Secondly, the person or the member of Parliament who has written this letter is Honorable Member for Starehe, who apparently is also the member who hosts Parliament. We are here because this particular house is actually hosted in Starehe constituency. When we look at his behavior in Parliament, he rarely sits in this Parliament. He is rarely in this Parliament, and the only time he comes close to Parliament or the presence of Parliament is when he is at the bar, which is close by here. But he is a member of Parliament. He should be seated here and answering his questions.
What is it? Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. Order Mwenje. This is not a marketplace, for heaven's sake. And as a young lawyer and a young MP, I've been mentoring you, telling you how to conduct yourself in many ways. However agitated you are, just maintain your cool like the good old doctor next to you. Yes. Even if you have a point of order, you don't have to stand up and shout at your colleague. It's actually grossly disorderly conduct. Carry on, Marian.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. If we look at this,
you have less than a minute to go.
Thank you. If we look at this particular ruling, Honorable Speaker, it talks about that you cannot be a member of a political party because you are not a member of Parliament yet, and that is under the Political Parties Act. Yet, the Constitution of Kenya, which is more supreme, actually states that the Honorable Speaker is an ex-officio member of Parliament, and therefore, the rights that a member of Parliament enjoys is the same rights the Speaker enjoys, and therefore the Speaker can belong to a party.
Thank you. Member for Kajiado South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand also just to support the ruling by the High Court. We are supposed to abide by the ruling, and it's also good for today to confess that, Mr. Speaker, the time you are being voted in, personally, I voted for you. And even today, if it was to be repeated, I would still vote for you. So that time you got a lot of votes.
Thank you for that.
You had a lot of friends. You had a lot of friends that time. And even now you have more. Mr. Speaker, if all of us are looking at the other agreement that have come in, my party that I serve, ODM, is also in the broad-based government as per now. They are also in the broad-based government. What I was requesting, can we? Let me just finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Address across the floor. Address the chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker. My argument was, if we are able to go back to 2022, when the Kenyan people voted, they voted on manifesto, they voted on certain beliefs. So when Azimio One Kenya went to court, they went to look for justice at that time. It doesn't mean that even if justice took 2 years, then because judgment has been made, it is, for example, someone who has taken your property and given you a half of the property, and finally, the judgment has been made that the property is yours. You'll go back and take your property. I respect Kimani Ichung'wah, and I love him so much, but I also ask that Honorable Junet Mohammed is qualified to be the majority leader, and the Kenyans are waiting that decision to be made today. As you go ahead, and the broad-based, let us do the broad-based. What is the fruit of this broad-based? What's the fruit? We need that fruit, Mr. Speaker, today, to see if they can give us a small cut of the meat. Thank you.
Chikati. Give him the mic. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Article 106 does not disqualify a political leader from holding a speaker's office at all. And I'll give some examples. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Speaker of this House, Madam Gladys Swalei, is an elected member of this assembly from Uasin Gishu County. Mr. Speaker, the party leader of MDG, Honorable Cheng, is a member of the Speaker's panel and is also a party leader. The Senate Speaker, Amason Kingi, is a party leader of a party called Pamoja Africa Alliance Party. Regionally, Mr. Speaker, all the national assemblies, all the county assemblies are also being led by elected speakers in the county assemblies. Regionally, the Speaker of Uganda, Madam Anita Among, is also an elected member of parliament from Bukedea district. In Tanzania, the Speaker of the National Assembly of Tanzania, Tulia Ackson, is an elected member of the National Assembly from Mbeya. This decision of disqualifying a speaker from holding a political office is unconstitutional and is an attempt to change Article 106 of the Constitution and is totally unacceptable. I submit.
Thank you, Ben Suda. Okay.
Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would want to seek for clarification and give my view on this issue. One, Speaker, we need to take a 13th Parliament to stop giving the public mixed reactions and mixed signals on issues. And therefore, court rulings must be respected. Mr. Speaker, you know very well, when there was the ruling on the wild goose chase, hot air and the rest, it was respected. When we are in this house, Mr. Speaker, as legislators, as lawmakers, I would want to support our colleagues who have requested you to guide and give us direction so that it is not for only members at this particular moment, but even for the years to come. When we undergo such kind of eventualities, things are set straight and pace is set. I want to appreciate the 6 facts which you gave on the ruling that the Speaker has conflict on interest. I was convinced with your 6 facts. But coming to the majority, party or position, Mr. Speaker, as I stand, you can see that I am and we are broadly competent and broadly majority. Even from the physical outlook, I'm the majority. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this matter should be put. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority is not judged by body morphology.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Was intentional. but even the brain is majority. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that even the level that we have reached as a country, Honorable Junet Mohammed has navigated the River Niles and made sure that we are fully represented and there is peace. So this issue of mixed signal should not be there. Mr. Speaker, I say there is nothing wrong.
KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you that I was able to catch your eye. And Mr. Speaker, you're hereby called upon to make a decision. And your decision is intended to be, expected to be a very Solomonic decision. Mr. Speaker, as you make your decision, you have to appreciate, one, that the problem that we are facing today is not a legal problem. In fact, it is a political problem, it is a numerical problem, it is about political numbers. Mr. Speaker, as you retreat to your chamber to make a ruling on this matter, all you need to understand is that there are pre-election coalitions and post-election coalitions. And this is Kenyans who decided, as they were granting themselves the constitution, that parties can come together before an election and come together after an election. So, Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, so that this House can apply itself on the issues that Kenyans are keen to hear us debating, matters that concern their welfare, Mr. Speaker, I would call upon this House to agree that if, Mr. Speaker, you were to take a head count today, you would find that Kenya Kwanza is the majority, that Kimani Ichung'wah is the substantive majority leader, and that the numbers as they stand today, Mr. Speaker, you are right in your place to make a decision that Kenya Kwanza is the majority and status quo remains. Mr. Speaker, this is not legal, this is arithmetic, it is political. Just like Bunge cannot apply itself on interpreting the law, the courts cannot make political decisions for this country. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask us to protect the sanctity of this House so that we can go into the business that Kenyans elected us to do. They did not elect us to argue about who is leader of majority and who is leader of minority. Mr. Speaker, make your ruling.
Rueda Obo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, twaheshimu uamuzi wa koti, lakini hapa hatukubaliani nao. Hatukubaliani nao kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu mwanzo sisi kama Jubilee Party, sisi tulikuwa tushaenda, hatuko kwa Azimio. Ukiangalia mawaziri wale tuko nao sahihi, wale walopeleka hii mambo kotini, Mheshimiwa Ondai, Mheshimiwa Waziri Mbadi, sahihi wako kwa hii serikali, wao ni mawaziri. Kweni hawa majaji walikuwa hawaoni kwamba mambo yamepita na mambo yameendelea? Kweni walikuwa wanaishi Kenya gani? Sasa huku ni kuleta taharuki, na sisi hatuna haja ya taharuki. Hii serikali imepitia changamoto kubwa, changamoto nyingi. Kwa hivyo tunaomba tafadhali watupatie nafasi tuendelee. Na hili jambo lako Spika, mimi naona kama wewe, yani nashangaa kitu kama katiba haikusema, imenyamaza. Yamaanisha inaruhusiwa, so haina haja kuwalenga maspika wawili hawa. Katiba iko, ifuatwe katiba. Katiba haikukataza. Kwa hivyo kwa vile haikukataza, inamaanisha ni sawa ukue hapo kama spika. Bwana Spika, mimi naona mlengwa ni wewe, na labda utuambie ukweli. Hatujui umefanya nini huko, likanyaga waya au kuna history gani huko. Naona kama ni mlengwa wewe, umelengwa hapo. Na sisi tuwaona haya mambo ni kama kumwambia bibi na bwana wameoana, sasa uwaambie nyinyi kwa hamuruhusiwi legally kuoana. Watu washazaa, watu wamependana. Sisi tumeshikana kama broad base hiyo broad base. Sasa ya nini shida zote hizi?
Aseka from Huisero. Give him the mic, he's at the end there. There you are.
Thank you, Speaker. I've read the judgment, the 71 pages and 508 paragraphs. And I want to request you, Speaker, as you retire to do your judgment and your ruling, consider the repercussions of this ruling on the composition of the IBC selection panel, the repercussions on the Commission on Revenue Allocation, which was approved by this House, and its finding. Honorable Speaker, also consider the repercussions of the committee reports of this House. Mr. Speaker, also consider and advise this House if, when the court says that you as a political leader or maybe a party leader is not supposed to preside over this House, does it mean if even the President of the Republic of Kenya, who is a party leader in this country, is supposed to resign when he takes over or when he took over the parliament, the executive? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kitui, is it Kitui Central? Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is my input to this issue. In this House, everybody who sits in this House sought to protect the Constitution. We also sought to defend and protect the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. As it is now, the courts have given a ruling, and I have not seen anybody in this House who has tabled a stay order to this House saying that things should be the way they are supposed to be. Unless that has happened, Honorable Speaker, the House has no choice but to respect the position of the courts, the ruling, whereby, as at the time we joined this House, there were pre-election coalition agreements which had been signed. On the basis of those pre-election coalition agreements, Azimio was declared to be the majority leader. The way forward, Honorable Speaker, is if there are post-election coalition agreements which have been signed or formalized, they just need to be tabled, Honorable Speaker, and this matter will make it very easy for you to make a ruling. But even as you make a ruling, Honorable Speaker, composition of committees, slots to the ABC Commission were determined on the basis of majority party, minority party. So it will have implication in terms of that. So, Honorable Speaker, the sooner you do this, the better for the House, because you'll be able to know how do we then reorganize the committees, because in a situation where Kenya Kwanza was the majority and now they are the minority, it means we have to rework the committees by reducing the numbers. So, Honorable Speaker, this is not a very simple matter as we are taking it. We need to take it very seriously, Honorable Speaker, and the starting point is to know, do we have post-election coalition agreements which have been formalized? Some parties have also crossed the other side, Honorable Speaker. We are aware. Some of us, white power, we are still very...
Yes, member sitting behind Rahim, is that Honorable Chiforomondo Makale?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, apart from the quagmire which has been caused by the courts, it is a wake-up call for the courts to ensure that matters which are presented before them, it is concluded on time so that it doesn't cause all this confusion. Because then a lot has expired, has happened before or after the case was taken into court. Mr. Speaker, I have gone through parts of the ruling, and I've seen that they have said that the decision of the majority party in parliament was done by the electorate. And I want to differ, because then what was the reason for us to come and vote the majority leader here, the speaker and all those leaders whom we did? Then I believe that these people did just purposely to confuse this parliament, and we need to put our foot down, because then, Mr. Speaker, people outside there need to hear us debating very serious issues which actually affect them. And this is the time to expedite this matter, and your guidance, Mr. Speaker, is paramount and important so that we move on. Otherwise, I see this issue as a time-wasting strategy for this parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. let me approach this matter on two limbs. First, the position of the Speaker has already been outlined under Article 97 and 90 and 106. So there's no one who can challenge the position of the Speaker, who is supposed to be a member of Parliament and who is supposed to be elected as a person who is qualified to be a member of Parliament. Number two, on this issue of leadership, Article Standing Order number 19A, which is a 19, which is a replica of Article 108, clearly says that the majority party shall produce the majority leader. So the only question that you need to determine when making a decision in this matter, who is the majority party or who is the majority of the coalition party? And that those facts can only be achieved when you invite the registrar of the political parties to give you those facts, and the matter would end there. It's a weighty matter, but very simple to determine, and then we'll be able to determine who will be the majority leader, and any coalition of the parties must be also be brought to this parliament under order 19A. So whatever Honorable Millie Odhiambo purported to bring here was premature, because there was no agreement of political parties that was also brought with the list that she purported to bring before this House. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Your immediate neighbor, Kapchai.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the courts are intending to throw this House under the bus, and we must be very careful. On the 48 laws of power, Mr. Speaker, they say that if you want to disperse the flock, you strike at the shepherd. And you are the shepherd of this House. Striking you, Mr. Speaker, will disperse the flock of this House. I want to bring to your notice, Mr. Speaker, as you retire to make your judgment, that once this House was led by senior people, and I remember very well, Mr. Speaker, we had in 1993-94, Mr. Speaker, Fort Kenya was a leader of majority in this House, leader of opposition, under Honorable Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. But the moment the Speaker, Fort Kenya split into two, we got Fort Kenya and LDP. Mr. Speaker, during that time, we ran short of seats from 44 to 22, Mr. Speaker. And Honorable Mike Kibaki, with the DP, took over this House as a leader of opposition. That tells you what, Mr. Speaker? The House leadership is dynamic. You can never step in a river twice, Mr. Speaker. If you do that, you are a different man in different waters. So, Speaker, this House is dynamic. Make a decision as is. Having heard Honorable Murungara said here, make the decision as is today. Give your evidence and declare. And the Speaker, Honorable Ichung'wa, is the majority leader as is today, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Matuga. Yes. Give it to Honorable Tandaza. There is time, you'll all speak, so don't worry.
Which one? Oh, asante. Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika.
Tandaza, so nyorosha maneno.
Asante, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa sababu mimi ni mhandisi, sikumbuki kama ni mwandishi gani aliyesema kwamba hata ikiwa ulikuwa na farasi wako ambaye unampenda, hata ikiwa ulikuwa na farasi wako ambaye anakimbia mbio kushinda na kuleta zawadi zote, lakini kwa bahati mbaya umri wako umefika na amefariki, haina haja uendelee kumbembeleza ule farasi, haina haja uendelee kumletea chakula ule farasi kwa sababu ulikuwa unampenda sana, ati atamka ndio aweze kukushindia zile mbio ulikuwa unazitaka. Kitu cha kufanya ni kutafuta farasi mwingine, umlishe, umfanyishe mazoezi, aendelee kushinda. Sasa
uamuzi huu kwa kifupi umepitwa na wakati, na najua wanahistoria ni wengi hapa, ndio maana tunazungumza kwa kirefu, lakini ukweli ulivyo, na sidhani kama kuna mtu ambaye anatashwishi na jambo hili, kwamba Azimio ilifariki. Kama hawataki kuizika ni sawa, lakini tunajua ilifariki, na uamuzi unazungumzia Azimio ambayo haipo. Sasa tutafufua vipi farasi ambaye amefariki hata kama tulikuwa tunampenda? Ndugu zangu, tukubalianeni, spika tulimchagua sawasawa. Kiongozi walio wengi ni Kimani Ichung'wah, yuko hapa na bado ndio tuko wengi. Sasa sioni haja tukidhani hata tutamfufua farasi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the House of Rules. Kenya is a country of laws. Today, the ruling that will be given about this matter will determine whether the House is a House that obeys court orders or a House that disobeys court orders. There is judiciary for a reason. There is legislature for a reason. There is executive for a reason. But this time, today, the court has issued a ruling. There is no way that a court can issue a court ruling and then it's taken to a police station, and then the court, then people, the police officers, Mr. Speaker, the House, there is no way that a court issues a court ruling, then it is taken to the police station, then you tell the police officers that you guys have a discussion about this court ruling and then decide to the left or right. There is a court ruling. This country is a country that should obey court orders and we should obey this court order. This parliament should obey the court order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think on the issues about the position of the Speaker, I was your agent, Honorable Speaker, during that time, and I can confirm that there was no requirement for you that you should be able to resign as the party leader of Fort Kenya. So I think that's something that is passed. On this issue about the majority and minority, Honorable Speaker, as you retreat, I want you to be guided by our Constitution, because in Article 108, it talks of the leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. And as it stands now, that is Kimani Ichung'wah, is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest coalition. And Junaid Mohammed is the leader of the second coalition in the National Assembly. And the Honorable Speaker, the court gave you a chance that you should be able to rule as it is now. And that is why it talks of ex-party and ante. And therefore, I think it is a new beginning that you are able to rule, and as you rule today, it stands from there moving forward. So it is not a question of going back as after the elections, pre-election agreements, or anything of that nature. I raise my case, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Garissa Mjini.
Yeah, Mjini. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We have been raising our hands here for quite a long time.
Don't complain, I've given you an opportunity to make your point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, there is some confusion here in that some people are misinterpreting the court ruling, in that the decision of the court was that a decision has been made on who is the majority and who is the minority coalition in this House. The decision of the court was that, the ruling of the court was that your decision that you made on the 6th of October was null and void. However, who is to make this decision again? It is not for the courts. It is for the Speaker of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, we have sat here for the whole afternoon and no other business of this house can take place because a decision has to be made. Can you make that decision, Mr. Speaker? It is upon you, it is with you. The collisions, this issue is just about numbers. We know the numbers, you know the numbers. Make the decision based on those numbers that you have. This is a political issue. It has nothing to do with the illegal issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Alice Nganga of Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, a ruling was done in this House, and Kimani Ichung'wah was declared as the majority leader. And to me, that ruling still stands. Mr. Speaker, National Assembly is an independent arm of government, and whatever business that we do here stands. Courts cannot make laws. It is us who do it here. So when they go outside there and a ruling was done in 2022 and they purport to change that ruling, that making a country to come to a standstill, does it mean, Mr. Speaker, you clarify for us all the businesses that we have concluded in this House, is it null and void? Does it mean everything that we have done in this House does not count? The courts needs to know they stop interfering with the running of this House. And what I have seen from this ruling, Mr. Speaker, these are people who don't wish this nation well. They are outside here because of broad base to scatter everything and the achievement that we have achieved this far. And the only big word I can tell them, washindwe tena sana.
Thank you. Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker. Check. Check, yes. Mr. Speaker, you are up to the task. You are a veteran speaker, you are a veteran lawyer, you are a veteran politician.
And you are senior.
And my senior. The fact of the matter is that now there is a High Court decision. The question would be, what will you do with it? I want to bring to your attention, and I'm sure your staff will bring this to you, the ruling which you made on 8th of June about the issue of political parties. And you're the only speaker who respects the rule of law. You came here, the very first speech you gave was heartwarming, that you came here to protect the Constitution. You came here above all to, please give me a little time. I think we are at the end of it. Yes. You came here to, if there is a court order, although you differ with them, although you could have a respectful view otherwise, but you'll obey it. What you said was this on that day, that I think, let me just get it for you. In difference to the directions the court with respect to the appellate administration process, I did notify the House, despite the discomfort of this decision caused on the business of the House. Immediately thereafter, I instructed the liaison litigation counsel to challenge the speaker. As your speaker, I remain cognizant of the obligation imposed on Article 3 of the Constitution. With respect to defend the Constitution and proceedings of the House. Despite the sympathies I hold for the predicament of the minority party, my hands are tied with regards to the court order. The only question, all these debates in the afternoon are neither here or there. The issue is there is now an order. We wait that you make a decision, and cognizant to the rule of law, which under Article 10 is very conspicuous. We know that you will do it. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Dr. Nyikal. Sorry, Doctor, with your age, we've kept you for so long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But he will
Mr. Speaker, before the court, the question was, a decision has been made that of two coalition parties, one is the majority. That was what before the court. The court decided that that decision was not correct. And therefore, it stands to reason that the other one must be the majority party. And therefore, what was before you is, as people saying, Mr. Speaker, you'll make a decision, or you will resolve, or you do. What is remaining is for you to implement the decision of the court. But if you take the position, Mr. Speaker, that the status ante is what prevails, then, Mr. Speaker, again, did you have to subject the whole House for this lengthy discussion? All that was there was to let the process go on, and you should have adjourned this House long time ago, because in reality, this House cannot proceed if, as constituted, it has no majority or minority leadership. Mr. Speaker, as regards as to whether you will be fair, sometimes I think justice actually can be beyond the law. You are a leader of a party, it is known. That party is part of a coalition, you are known. They have members that sit in this House. Mr. Speaker, you have to be an angel, not actually to be favor one part. And even this decision, some may be tempted to think that is what actually drove your decision. You are a very experienced lawyer. You are very articulate, you know the law. How is it that you made the decision that the court has found actually not to be correct? So, Mr. Speaker, one, I think we should look at the position that if somebody is a leader of a party, can they be a Speaker of the House? And two,
read the judgment. Honorable Ruth Odinga. I'll give you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I long wanted to speak. First of all, I would like to state that I'm not a lawyer, and I really don't know much about law. What actually makes me puzzled is when I see lawyers who respect the law and decisions made by courts when it favors them. And when it doesn't, then you say that we have quasi decision in parliament, we are quasi whatever and whatever. Mr. Speaker, the court has nullified your decision, and therefore we go back to what I would say is a status quo ante. And in the status quo ante, it was very, very obvious that the party that the political parties declared was Azimio as the majority. So in itself, when we say we go back to the status quo ante, that is the position we are supposed to have. I'm not agreeing, I'm not having 1 minute because that is short. Secondly, most of those parties that have said that they're Azimio, those Azimio parties have not left the coalition. They have stated and they've said they want to leave, but they have not left. So as far as we are still here, most of them, they're there. They're still under Azimio, and therefore they belong to this party. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, one of the things you are accused of was impartiality. Even through your demeanor and how you actually are giving people a chance to speak here and how we are, that impartiality still shows. I don't know whether that decision means that you're the one who's going to decide on whether who's going to be, because if it is you, we know which side you're going to go. Please let us have somebody else come and make the decision. Thank you.
Ruth Odinga, you are grossly out of order. You are grossly out of order. Bring a motion and discuss the speaker, if you wish. Ruku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate you and thank you for the leadership you have shown to this House for the last 2.5 years. You have read us with a lot of wisdom and acumen. Also, Mr. Speaker, I want also to congratulate the majority leader, Kimani Ichung'wah, because for the last 2.5 years, he has done an incredible job. Mr. Speaker, judiciary delayed this ruling for 2 years. And they say, as they say, justice delayed is justice denied, Mr. Speaker. This does not say that the ruling is spot on. Mr. Speaker, the separation of powers, as far as our Constitution is concerned,
is a very critical principle which underpins the way the three arms of government should be able to operate at work. Mr. Speaker, if you refer to the political parties, to the registrar of political parties, you'll be able to get the results or the membership of parties within the coalitions. And this will give you a very straight answer on which side is the majority in this house. I am sure this is not a difficult ruling. It's not a difficult thing for you to do, Mr. Speaker. You'll be able to retreat and come up with an answer guided by the registrar of political parties. And I am sure the results will be that Kenya Kwanza Coalition is the majority in this house. And therefore, we stand to produce the leader of majority, the leader of minority, the leader of...
Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I'm going to close this debate at 6. So those I'll give space, please compose your idea.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As a country, as members of parliament, we swore to protect the Constitution of Kenya. Respecting a court decision is not a matter of discretion, it is a must. Until the High Court decision is appealed or set aside, we have no other option but to accept and obey the court decision. Honorable Speaker, the ruling has brought us to 4. When is an election held? When are the results announced? And once the results are announced, does any other body in this country have the power to change the composition of the membership of this parliament? Honorable Speaker, elections were held in August 2022. The numbers were very clear. The numbers have not changed. And Article 108 is very clear what becomes what and what becomes what. Honorable Speaker, the ruling you are being invited to make is generally not even a ruling. Until we annul the court order, then we have no choice that the decision you made has been annulled, and the decision you made then was to say Kenya Kwanza was the majority party. The other opposite is very simple, straightforward. That if it was annulled, you have to go back and find the details. Who was the majority party then? Because the decision was being annulled is that particular decision. I do not know what else we are supposed to do. On the issue of your position as a speaker and a member of for the Kenya party, is neither here nor there. Because that's, we leave it to your conscience. Whether it impacts your impartiality or not, we leave it to your conscience. You are an elder. We respect you. We do not want to go into that matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Bissau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I received this ruling and I've read it very clearly. I've also listened to the lawyers in the House, but surprisingly, starting with the first item, whether it is correct for you to remain the party leader of Fort Kenya and at the same time be the speaker, our constitution is very clear. Article 77(2), it talks about an appointed officer who shall not hold a political party position, but you are not you are not an appointed state officer. You are elected. And my neighbor here, Dr. Bokosa, I remember he was your chief agent. And many of us voted for you, including my brother, your senior counsel, your learned friend, Atendo Molo, who actually voted for you. So that, we pack it and we leave it at that. And even across the border, your colleagues, Aneta Mong, she's the speaker of Uganda. She's actually, in fact, even now vying for a position in NRM. Dr. Tulia Axon, she's also an elected person. So there's nothing that restricts you to remain the Fort Kenya party leader and be the speaker at the same time. On the other issue, about the majority and minority, I have read this ruling very clearly. But again, our courts have not come out clearly to say what is what. And if you look at Roman 3, on their decision, It talks about an order of certiorari is hereby issued quashing the Honorable Speaker's ruling or determination contained in his communication from the chair made on 6th October 2022 on the majority and minority in the National Assembly.
Thank you. Yeah. Give him half a minute.
What we expect is our courts to be giving us very clear ruling. The court is telling you retreat and tell us who is the majority in this case. They've mentioned both the minority and the majority, and they're not saying who is what. So we also expect that our courts give us very, very clear direction. So what we require from you, Chair, is to give us direction and give us a decision to know who is actually the majority and who is the minority. Thank you, Mr.
Yes, Kimani Chungwa. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine is on a point of order, Honorable Speaker, on a matter of decorum of the House. Because, Honorable Speaker, I was just perusing through what is going on my phone.
Yes.
And I saw the Honorable Selassie, the member for Mumias,
Yes.
is live streaming
The proceedings of the House.
proceedings of the House, recording himself from his seat at the back. Honorable Speaker, the House and the Parliamentary Service Commission has given us live coverage on national TV, and we cannot belittle the work of this House through such uncouth methods as live streaming, recording on your phone and live streaming what is going on in the House, and saying very unpalatable things on live media. Now, request that you ask him to even delete those things and apologize to the House.
Honorable Salasia, is that correct?
Speaker, you know, most of the time when I've been staying here for a very long time without being given an opportunity to speak.
Honorable Salasia, is what is being alleged correct?
I don't know what he's talking about because I don't run my social media platforms. So, Speaker, I've been carrying up my hand.
Honorable Salasia, the issue is, are you live streaming the proceedings and making unpalatable comments along the way?
Speaker, I don't know what the Mheshimiwa Chungwa is talking about. What I just wanted, I also have my own contribution.
Honorable Salasia, be honorable, my dear young man. If you are not honorable, it's very easy for Parliament to ask for the logs on your phone and see what you are doing. If you say it is true, then the Speaker will take some other remedial action. If you don't, it's a matter that can find your way to the Powers and Privileges Committee with unintended consequences. Why are you doing so?
Maybe, Speaker, maybe I'll have to confirm with what he's talking about.
Honorable Salasia, you know, dishonesty is not a virtue.
Speaker, I don't know what he's saying. Maybe I go and confirm what he's talking about, but I had also just raised my hand so that I can speak what I feel that I should speak.
Order, Honorable Salasia. I believe when you are in the chamber, you are listening and following proceedings. Take your seat. You are listening and following proceedings. And what we are discussing this afternoon is a very serious matter. The independence of this House is an issue. The leadership of this House is an issue. And every member who has spoken here, you've listened, your seniors, your peers, have been very focused. Even members who have sat for a long time, you complain that you've been raising your hand. There are many, Lotte here has been sitting here since. We have Ferdinand Wanyonyi here, Amze, has been sitting here since. The issue is, were you streaming the proceedings live and making comments along the way? Comments that your colleagues are saying are unpalatable. And that is the issue that has been raised by the member for Kikuyu.
Speaker,
You've even forgotten to switch off your phone. It's still streaming, I'm told.
Here. So I don't know, maybe Honorable Junga can say maybe what I've said.
Order,
That is
Honorable
so.
Salasia, what I'll do is I'll instruct the clerk to get the logs on your phone. And if I find that what is being alleged is correct, then I'll invite a member to file a complaint and refer to the Powers and Privileges Committee for appropriate action. You can also be named. Yes, Wamumbi? Yes, okay. Robert Mbui, I'll give you an opportunity to contribute. Clerk, proceed to get the details on Honorable Salasia's phone and furnish with the speaker immediately. Robert Mbui, proceed to contribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, first, I find this debate a little misplaced because I don't know whether as a House we are supposed to be discussing court rulings and, because I thought that generally what we do with court rulings is implement them. But we have spent the whole afternoon discussing this issue of the court ruling, whether the judges were right or they are wrong.
Robert Mbui, if you
Mr.
listen
Speaker,
to the beginning, don't take us back. When Emilio Odhiambo, who is your leader, raised the issue, you are here. And the House was given direction by the Speaker. So I expect your contribution to tell the House which way you want us to go. But to go back and say for the last 3 hours we have been exercising in futility, you are taking a wrong trajectory. I know you are senior and a leader, should have given you an opportunity at the beginning, but you also started off by very unorthodox conduct.
Mr. Speaker, I was only trying to claim my position as the deputy leader of the majority based on the ruling that we read of the court. But Mr. Speaker, the issue of majority, which is what we are discussing, is not an issue, in my opinion, that's supposed to be decided either by the Speaker or even this House. This is a decision that is made by Kenyans when they cast their ballots at the end of the last, at the elections. And Mr. Speaker, even the issue of that you're supposed to make a ruling or you're supposed to say who is majority or minority, Mr. Speaker, really what you're supposed to do is convey the information that has come from the from the register of political parties when they indicate how many members are in each coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that what is happening in Kenya now, Mr. Speaker, and why I think we are having this problem is because parliament and politics in Kenya has become very indecent. Mr. Speaker, it's important that when people are elected in a certain coalition, they spend their 5 years in that coalition. And Mr. Speaker, if anyone feels that they do not want to belong to that coalition, the law is also very clear that you can go and seek a fresh mandate. But you know what we have been doing here, Mr. Speaker, is that people are elected in one party in the middle of the term, they jump ship and go to another party. Our leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, was in a party and he was dissatisfied. He left, went for a by-election, was re-elected, was brought back to the House. This business of people just crossing, I think, Mr. Speaker, is the problem, and that is why we are here today. Otherwise, I want us to respect the court ruling. Majority is the Azimio, and the minority can take up their position on the other side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Robert Mbui. Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
The Speaker, thank you very much for the chance. I think I've sat here and
Don't
I've listened
complain.
to
Just go on.
contribution to everybody else. I think I should retreat to look at this, Mr. Speaker. I think the best thing is look at the coalition we had before election and after election. See which coalition has which numbers. And that if you have got the number, you don't be able to know who the members are. And given that, you can be able to, because as I see, we are late. We are
Order, Women Rep Migori.
Yeah. So
Order. Yes, go on, Ferdinand.
So what I was saying is that the Speaker, as you retreat, I think we need to look at the coalition. If it's Azimio, how many people are there? Because people have moved out, the others have come in. See how many, Kenya Kwanza, how many people are there to be able to know who the majority is. It's as simple as that, so I can be able to move forward. I raise my case.
Thank you, Kimani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of whether the Speaker is supposed to belong to any particular political party, the law is very clear on every appointed and elective position that this country holds. And I've looked, and there is nowhere that has a requirement. Where the law has required that a particular person belong or not to belong to a political party, the law has expressly said so. Honorable Speaker, studying this judgment, paragraph 493, just to read verbatim of this judgment, says, it will be remembered that our Constitution at Article 99(1)(c) only singles out the Speaker as the ex-officio member of the National Assembly, unlike all the other members because of his special status. Honorable Speaker, the judges that were making this ruling not even bother to read what Article 99(1)(c) of the Constitution says. If you read Article 99(1)(c) of the Constitution and to read it verbatim, it says qualification and disqualification from election as members of Parliament. So 1, unless disqualified under Clause 2, a person is eligible for election as a member of Parliament if the person, A, is a registered voter, B, satisfies any education, moral and ethical requirements, C, is nominated by a political party or is an independent candidate who is supported. And therefore, even the reference to that article of the Constitution that they purport to quote for this particular judgment, Honorable Speaker, is not what the law says. And therefore, the question we're asking ourselves, should then the judiciary either interpret the law or make the law? Because even by them quoting a reference that completely unrelates to that particular judgment, creates an attempt to make a law, which they shouldn't do, their work should be to interpret. My submissions, Honorable Speaker.
Before I give the next, Honorable Selassie, I'm told you want to not to contribute because you are under quarantine on the issue raised. The clerk tells me you want to say something to that?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that whatever Mheshimiwa Ichung'wah said, if I felt like maybe it was in bad intention, maybe I apologize. But Mr. Speaker, also, as we people...
Order, Honorable Selassie. Were you recording? Because you say if, it's like there's no remorse. If you are recording, it is not permitted by our standing orders. So if you did that, I want to guide you as a young member, and I want you to grow in your leadership. There is a lot of decency, and the Bible says the greatest word in human relations is one word called sorry. If you did that, say sorry and delete those logs, and we go on.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, I apologize and withdraw and delete.
Delete all those logs and let the clerk confirm. Waluke John.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance. Honorable Speaker, the ruling of the High Court.
After Waluke, I'll give 2, 3 others, then we close.
The ruling of the High Court, Speaker, was overtaken by event because it has taken almost 3 years, and the case was filed with the certificate of urgency, where the 3-bench judge could have acted very quickly and gave the ruling immediately. Mr. Speaker, there is nowhere where it says that the Speaker cannot hold any political office, Mr. Speaker. There's nowhere. So, Mr. Speaker, make the ruling. On the side of majority and minority, Mr. Speaker, these two, the difference is very little in terms of, there's no difference in terms of salary or in terms of working, Mr. Speaker. So time is, there are people now aligning themselves politically for the next general elections, Mr. Speaker. So time is of essence, and I plead that, Mr. Speaker, the members of this House also need to consider that we are almost going to elections. So the two should be left the way they are, the majority and the minority. I don't see any hedge that can force to say that.
Timothy Kipchumba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Article 3(1) of the Constitution provides that everyone has an obligation to respect, protect, and uphold the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, we therefore as a House have that obligation to respect the court decision. Honorable Speaker, the decision of the court, the effect of it is that it declared your ruling a nullity. Honorable Speaker, however, I have read that ruling. Honorable Speaker, I beseech you not to proceed to issue a direction on this matter until this matter is appealed before the Court of Appeal. Honorable Speaker, there are unsettled matters in that decision that must be subjected to the test of the Court of Appeal. Honorable Speaker, one of the issues touches on your election to the office of the Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you may not be able to render a decision on that particular part of the ruling. Honorable Speaker, so that we are safe as a House, it is good to subject, if we can get a stay, so that the status quo, not status quo ante, but the status quo before this ruling obtains, then, Honorable Speaker, it will be safe and it will protect this House. Honorable Speaker, whichever decision you make in this House, it will have a political impact. So, Honorable Speaker, my opinion is this decision is appealed. We retain the status quo as it is, not the status quo ante. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Reading through the ruling of the High Court, Mr. Speaker, it makes me to believe that you are better qualified lawyer than the three judge members that made the ruling. Why am I saying this, Mr. Speaker? One, I listened to the ruling 3 years after, Mr. Speaker, in a matter that was filed as a matter of urgency. And then they are giving the ruling 3 years after. It tells you about the dysfunctional court systems that we've got. Because if they can do this in this House, in a matter as weighty as this, Mr. Speaker, what are they doing to the common mwananchi? How are those cases of the common mwananchi ruled? The last one, Mr. Speaker, is when this decision was made in October 2022, Mr. Speaker. I am a member of the Azimio Coalition. We contended that year, Mr. Speaker. But that time, we had 171 members of the Kenya Kwanza Coalition, and of the Azimio Coalition, and 165 members of the Kenya Kwanza. But, Mr. Speaker, there was a letter that was written by several members of the Azimio Coalition, and 14 members exited. And it is based on that, Mr. Speaker, that you made a decision and say that because the 14 members have exited the Azimio and have gone to the Kenya Kwanza, then the Kenya Kwanza becomes the majority party. The Political Parties Act number 10, Mr. Speaker, is very clear about that, that 21 days after an election, the political parties can shift, and as long as they write letters and officiate their agreements, then it is accepted. 6th of October, 21 days had elapsed, and I think and I know that you got those letters. So you made a ruling, Mr. Speaker, that I...
Rahim, you've made your point. Rahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, you are not a leader of the Luhya nation. You are a national leader, so I want to correct that misinformation which was done earlier. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, 2 members of parliament have cast aspersions on you, and I think it was completely out of order. I was here when Speaker Muturi was being impeached, and he was on that seat where you are now sitting. So I think the two leaders need to apologize. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, we as the independents, I think we're not being counted at all. Because if Azimio said there were 174 and Kenya Kwanza is 165, the 10 members who aligned with Kenya Kwanza makes it 176. So, Mr. Speaker, Azimio is just a name which is there. Mr. Speaker, it's stillborn. It's not at all anywhere where ODM is on its own, Wiper is on its own. So let us not be told about Azimio, Mr. Speaker. Like one of the members has asked my friend Honorable Junet, where is the address of Azimio, and he does not know. So Mr. Speaker, this one, Azimio does not exist at all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can be shouted down, but Azimio does not exist.
Member for Kinango. He will be the last.
Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza nataka nikushukuru, na kwa sababu dakika ni mbili, niliposoma judgment hii nilikumbuka mwaka 1982 wakati litangazwa hapa nchini kwamba kuna jaribio la mapinduzi. Hii judgment tuiangalie kwa jicho jingine, kwa sababu naona kama kuna njama kutoka kwa mahakama kujaribu kuipendua bunge hili. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati unapokwenda kupumzika na kuandika hii judgment, ni mpaka pia tujue tunaelekea wapi. Mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunaishi kama familia tunapokuwa hapa bungeni, lakini naomba niulize wale ndugu wanaojiita kwamba ni watu wa Azimio, je, huu mnaofanya ni ungwana? Kwa sababu hatuwezi kuwa wakati wote tunazungumza tukijua kwamba sisi ni jamii moja. Mahakama ilitoa maamuzi ndio, lakini ilipewa maombi 34 na ikajibu machache, 6 hawakuweza kujibu, na hatujamaliza siku 14 za kukata rufani. Leo tayari hapa tuko katika kizimba, kana kwamba tulikuwa hatuwezi kusubiri siku 14 za rufani ndio mambo kama haya yakaletwa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, naenda ukakae chini, lakini kumbuka kwamba kitengo chetu cha mahakama kina njama fiche ambayo hatujajua lengo lake ni nini, Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini sisi kwa sababu tunaheshimu mahakama, tutakata rufani na matokeo ya rufani ndio yatakayokuwa yanaweza kuongoza mwelekeo wa jumba hili, lakini mambo ya jumba hili yatamalizwa na nyumba hii. Si watu wa mahakamani kuja kutupangia tutakwenda kwa njia gani. Mheshimiwa Spika, nafikiri wanafahamu vizuri kwamba hii nyumba ina kinara, na kinara ndiye atakayetoa maamuzi yake ya kujua kwamba tutakwenda namna gani kama bunge. Kwa hivyo kwa hayo
Wanjala, what is it? Yes, let me hear the point of order from the Deputy Speaker first.
Honorable Speaker, earlier when I had contributed to the debate, I did notify the House that during the time during your absence, when the court case came out, I asked the Clerk of the National Assembly to write to the Registrar of Political Parties confirming the arrangement of parties and the numbers together with their coalition agreements. So I want your permission, Honorable Speaker, to table it.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Table them and pass them on to the clerk. Wanjala, what is it, Wanjala? I have said the Kinango member will be the last.
I just want to debate equally,
Okay,
Mr.
be the
Speaker.
very last. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No.
Mr. Speaker,
Wanjala had not debated. He just rose on several irrelevant points of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is true, Mr. Speaker, without any doubt in my mind, that Mr. Speaker, it is true.
Yes,
and the Speaker,
Clerk,
some of
can
us
you-
have been point of order, Speaker.
Yes, Karani.
I am been raising up my hand from the time we came in, and Wanjala has spoken.
I will just seek an opportunity to speak instead of making Wanjala reference. Wanjala has been rising on several irrelevant points of order, but he has not contributed. Okay, after Wanjala, I'll give you Karane to close. Okay. Wanjala, give him the mic.
Mr. Speaker, I know you as somebody who understands law. Mr. Speaker, in this house, not all of us are lawyers, not all of us are competent to critique the ruling of the court. Mr. Speaker, you have been in courts. You always know that court orders, Mr. Speaker, anybody with a doubt, always go for appeal. If you are not in doubt, then implement it. Mr. Speaker, when we are here and each one of us is trying to debate, is trying to say what he wants, some of us are not competent as lawyers, and we want to talk about the rulings. Mr. Speaker, we are going nowhere. Mr. Carol Omond was very clear on what is supposed to be done for us to resolve this issue. Mr. Speaker, anybody who is aggrieved will always go for court of appeal.
There is a point of order from member for Matuga. Yes, Tandaza. Go ahead.
Is the honorable member in order to say that we are not competent to discuss a matter before us? Is he in order?
He's out of order. And he's discussing. Go on, Wanjala.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we have a procedure to withdraw from coalitions. You just don't write letters right, left, center. We have a procedure to move out of our political parties. You have to resign, you have to go back for re-election, for a by-election. So anybody purporting to have withdrawn as an individual from anybody purport to have withdrawn from Azimio and yet did not follow the procedures, Mr. Speaker, that is still null and void. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we call upon you that we don't want people wakupake uchafu. You are clean. We want you to do a proper thing by giving Azimio their rightful position. If anybody is doubting, go for appeal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Kirima. After Kirima, we close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mine will be very brief, but just to state what the Constitution says, that this House and the courts and the executive, they're just creatures of the Constitution. And the Constitution has to be respected as it is. This House being a quasi-judicial body, it ought to have its own independence without being interfered with by any other body, because all the bodies, the three bodies which are creatures of this Constitution, cannot be interfering by each other. And by the time the ruling was being given, being an officer of the court and having been in the court for quite a long period, the court usually asks if it's intent to give a ruling as pertains to the status quo of a position. What is the status quo, or what is the position at that time when it is deliberating the ruling? And in this issue, the court gave the ruling as it was in the year 2022, which means it has taken a lot of about 3 years before it can give the ruling on the status quo of the position. And things have shifted, because when it comes to politics, and the interpretation of the law as it is, status quo is not cast on a stone. It shifts as per the situation on that material particular time when things are taking place. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you can allow me, if you look at Article 95 of the Constitution, Article 95 of the Constitution states very clearly that, Speaker, the law of the National Assembly, one of it is that the National Assembly represents the people of the constituencies and special interest in the National Assembly. But second one, it says that the National Assembly resolves on issues which concerns the people. What is being debated in this house today concerns our people, because we have been given that rule and that provision by the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, it is true, as it is today, Kenya Kwanza government is the majority in this house, and we cannot deny it in all aspects. Taking into account that now we're even on the broad-based government, whereby almost all members are on one side, other than few dissenting members of about that 5 members. So as it is, we should not negate what has already been earned in this house by Kenyans, because what we are doing now is just a public relations exercise. And as for that, this ruling, as it will be appealed to, it will come to be seen that what the Speaker gave us a ruling of this house is going to start. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable members, I think we have ventilated sufficiently on this matter since 2:30 to 2:40. I want to thank the Honorable Millie Odhiambo for raising the matter that triggered the debate. I want to thank all of you for the tremendous input. Each one of you has had their say, except a few. To those who haven't spoken, like Martin Owino and Mulyunge and others, even when it rains, it doesn't soak everybody. Sometimes it soaks a few and others get away. So I want to tell the House, I've looked at the documents that the Deputy Speaker has tabled, and they are genuine and admissible. They form part of our direction. And I want to direct the House, one, that the matters at order number 8, which was Constitution of House Business Committee, is stepped down for reasons that you all know. 2, we will, as expected, not sit tomorrow morning because we have no House Business Committee to prioritize or program business for the House. So tomorrow morning, you have a free morning. We will assemble at 2:30 tomorrow. I'll try and see if I can burn my midnight oil with my clerks and lawyers, sift through what you have said today, all of you, and advise you accordingly in the afternoon in that direction I'll give. Remember, as I said, the court quashed the decision and the ruling of the Speaker on the declaration of majority. The court has no capacity, has no power to declare who is majority and who is minority. That is a matter for the House. This is a matter for this House, and we will give you direction so that you can continue with doing your legislation, your oversight, and your representation roles in guiding our country so that we don't lose time. Thank you so much, all of you, even those who threw brickbats at the Speaker. The Speaker is seasoned, the Speaker is mature, the Speaker is used to this kind of thing, so I have no time to begrudge anybody. Whenever you want to say anything against the Speaker, do it. As long as you are doing it in good faith, I'll take it. If you do it maliciously, of course, then it begs, Wanjala can deal with you. So on that note, honorable members, can you be upstanding? The House, honorable members, stands adjourned until tomorrow, the 12th of February 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Suffice to mention that Honorable Bukose, you must be here to give your statement on SHA tomorrow.